I see. Excellent. Paul, to your left, to your left, to your left.
That's all right. Start.
Go ahead. You can call it to order. You got a quorum.
Could you take your seats, please? We're ready to begin. Good evening and welcome to the monthly meeting of the Arlington Board of Zoning Appeals, which is also known as the BZA. I'm Judy Freshman, Chairman of the Board. The Board's made up of 5 citizens appointed by the Circuit Court. In addition to myself, we have Charles Smith, Inta Mellis, Paul Melnick, and Peter Owen. Also present is the professional staff, including Deputy Zoning Administrator Andrew Noxon, who serves as Secretary to the Board of Zoning Appeals, Arlova Vaughn, Acting Zoning Administrator, and Clifton Hogan, Assistant to the Zoning Administrator. Sorry? And we also have Min Chao Kaur, Assistant County Attorney. We thank you for being here and extend you a warm welcome. To avoid disruptions, we ask that you please turn your cell phones and pagers off or put them in a silent mode. On the front table, you'll find copies of the staff report for each case before us tonight. I recommend, if you've not seen the report for your case, that you get a copy and review it before your case is called. The Board's powers are prescribed in the Code of Virginia and are set out in further detail in the county zoning ordinance adopted by the County Board. The Board of Zoning Appeals does not have the power to rezone property or amend the regulations set forth in the ordinance. That authority rests with the County Board. The Board does have the authority to do 3 things. We can approve use permits that allow modifications of placement requirements for structures on 1 and 2 family lots where there is no option in the zoning ordinance to allow such modifications. We can grant variances from the special requirements of the zoning ordinance, and we can decide appeals of decisions of the zoning administrator.
Is there a problem? Website and get the notice and get other materials that are there. If they go to the website, because they've run out of copies of the program of the staff report.
No, but it's just an 80-page report. They weren't going to just print.
Bunch of them, but they're gone. Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I might, I noticed there are people who are looking for the staff report. If you're interested in the Nova Arms, you can go to the building.arlingtonva.us and go to the website, and you can get the staff report. In fact, you can get all of the reports there. They're online in addition to hard copies. And I think the hard copies have run out.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. When approving use permits, the Board of Zoning Appeals may impose conditions that it deems necessary in the public interest, including limiting the duration of the use permit. In order to approve a use permit, the law requires that the Board find that the proposal meets conditions and that the use permit will not adversely affect the health or safety of persons residing in the neighborhood, will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to property or improvements in the neighborhood, and will not be in conflict with the purpose of the master plans and land use and zoning related policies of the county. To do this, the BZA shall consider whether the modification will promote compatibility of development with the surrounding neighborhood, because the structure's overall footprint, size, and placement are similar to the structures on the properties surrounding the lot in question, and whether the modification will help preserve natural landform, historic features, and/or significant trees and foliage. When granting variances, the Board must determine that the strict application of the ordinance would produce undue hardship, that the hardship is not generally shared by other properties in the same zoning district, and that the authorization of the variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property, and that the character of the district will not be changed by the granting of the variance. When deciding appeals of the zoning administrator, the board must determine if the administrator acted correctly. This evening, cases will be called and a brief staff report and recommendation will be given. Following that, board members will ask any questions of the staff they may have. Next, applicants or their representative will be given an opportunity to make comments to support the application or appeal. If they choose to make a comment, they must come forward to the podium so their comments can be recorded for the record. Next, all speakers for the item will be called. Speakers must fill out a speaker slip, which is available on the table in the front of the room, and give it to Mr. Hogan. After we hear from speakers for and against the proposal, the board may permit the applicant a brief opportunity to clarify any points. The board may ask questions of any speakers, but does not permit and will not condone any cross-examination or direct questioning by others. We have deemed the following time limits for speakers to be sufficient: 5 minutes for applicants for use permits and variances, 3 minutes for representatives of organizations, and 2 minutes for individuals. For appeals, 20 minutes for the appellant, 3 minutes for representatives of organizations, and 2 minutes for individuals. After the board has gathered all the information they need and discussed the case, it will decide the matter by voting on a motion duly made and seconded. A majority is needed to approve any motion. Any appeal from the decision of this board must be made to the circuit court in accordance with state law. After your case is heard, you're welcome to stay for the balance of the session or leave at your convenience. And I might make a note that on the agenda tonight, we have noted that we have reserved this room for tomorrow night in the event that we cannot complete the hearing tonight. It is our intention to complete it tonight, but we will evaluate that later. Again, thank you for being here this evening. Please call the first case.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here. Our first case tonight is V-11120-16-APP-1. This is an appeal by Robert Jones of a violation notice stating that the building on the subject property is an unpermitted multifamily dwelling. It's in the C2 zoning district on a premises known as 5029 23rd Street South.
The recommendation?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Did you want to make a comment, Mr. Lawson?
It's Barnes Lawson for the record. We've requested a deferral to, I think, July, and we would appreciate it very much if you all would grant that.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Question?
Mr. Smith. Oh,
I was going to make a motion to defer.
May I ask a question? The staff report says staff is working on solutions to the violation. Typically, what are solutions to a violation?
Approaching compliance, removing some of the units, getting permits to upgrade some of the work that's been done to bring it into compliance.
Okay.
Mr. Smith.
Madam Chair? I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals defer Appeal V-11120-16-APP1 to the July 13, 2016 meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to defer to July 13. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Next case is V-10809-13-UP-2. This is a use permit amendment request by Sean Norton. This is to permit a setback of 6.8 feet from the right side property line instead of 8 feet as required. This is to bring a rear porch into compliance with a previous use permit approval, setting R6 zoning district premises known as 4018 9th Street South.
Can we hear from the applicant, please? Questions of staff? Yes?
Just looking at the staff report, I was a little confused, so I wanted to just clarify. In the subject, it says that the setback is 8 feet required, but in the previous zoning action, they referred to a 10-foot requirement. Has that changed, or?
It's just the way we were looking at it at the time. We weren't reading the ordinance the correct way. If you have an addition that's behind the plane of the building, you just have to meet today's setbacks, which the closest would be 8, and the other 10. We were accounting for the entire existing non-conforming building at the time, so we advertised a 10-foot then.
Okay. And my second question was on the top of the second page, the last sentence in the paragraph, it says that the building permit expired because of further encroachment. Can you just explain that?
When the project was completed, wall checks and final plats were submitted to the county office. However, they were rejected. And at that point, from conversations with the property owner, he was not aware that they were rejected. So the contractor pretty much finished the job and then left. It didn't inform him that the wall check was rejected. So the building permit expired, and he didn't renew it in time. So he actually has to apply for a new building permit at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Can we hear from the applicant? Is the applicant here? Sean Norton? Do we have any speakers?
Maybe.
It's with the board. What's your pleasure?
Do you want to move it back on the docket?
I'm not sure if that's...
Madam Chair? Yes. May I ask staff, were you expecting the applicant tonight?
Yes.
So has he been delayed in traffic, or is that a likely situation?
It's possible. Sean Norton out there? I guess not.
We'll move it till later into the
Okay.
agenda.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion on that. Okay, in case D1080913 ZP2, I make a motion that this be moved to the end of the BZA docket prior to the appeal.
Second.
All those in favor of delaying the item till the end of the regular agenda?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Next case is V-11069-15-UP-2. This is a use permit request by Ken and Susanna Rack to permit a setback of 0 feet to the stairs from the 23rd Street South right-of-way instead of 5 feet as required, 13 feet to the landings, 15 feet to the eave, and 17 feet to the porch base from the 23rd Street South right-of-way instead of 21 feet as required. It's for the construction of a new porch with 3 landings and a front stairway. This is in the R6 zoning district, premises known as 5017 23rd Street South.
Questions of staff? Didn't hear the part about silencing your cell phone. We hear from the applicant, please. Okay.
Hi, hello, I'm Ken Reck, I'm the property owner. Just to advise you, we are working with an architect. I expected him to be here, but I presume he's delayed, but I'll attempt to address or answer any questions you would have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, hearing none. Motion?
Madam Chair, this is a tough lot. The topography is really rough. While it's odd to have 0 feet setback, these are steps that come all the way to the sidewalk, essentially. So I'd move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution approving use permit V-11069-15-UP2, subject to the conditions which are listed in the resolution.
Okay,
I'll second.
thank you. Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, this is case number V-11093-15-VA-2. This is a variance request by Carl Bernstein and Jeffrey Cuck to create two lots that do not meet the lot width requirements of the R8 zoning district for the construction of two new detached one-family dwellings. This is in the R8 zoning district, and this is on the premises located at 2264 North Upton Street, as well as the vacant property between 2256 and 2264 North Upton Street.
Questions of staff? Mr. Lawson?
Madam Chairman, members of the board, for the record, I am William B. Lawson, Jr. I represent the applicant. This has been before you all a number of times, but we've continuously deferred it in order to work things out with the neighbors. We've had a number of meetings, and we have come to a compromise, and what is in front of you is, in fact, that compromise. What this involves is taking the oversized lot next door and adding it to the small lot, and then re-subdividing the two buildable lots, the 5 old 1911 lots, into 2 equal-sized lots. So basically, we're taking excess area from the lot to the right and adding it to the undersized lot to the left. So basically, what we're doing is going from a grandfathered R6 lot, because it doesn't meet the R8 requirements, and we're creating an R8 lot. Now, this allows us to place a reasonably sized house on the lot that fully complies with zoning. This was very important to the community. They did not want variances for setbacks and variances for coverage. And so this kind of frees up the area and spreads out the homes. It also allows us to shift the house further away from Libby's house. And this is very important because her home is only 2 to 3 feet from the property line. This also allows us to replace trees that we'll be losing to the construction and to provide a buffer. Now, to do this, Carl and Jeff bought a neighboring lot, and the sellers reduced their price. This was all done in order to accommodate the concerns of the community. Now, this would all be fine except for staff's, what I believe is unreasonable hostility towards variances. Got to give you a little bit of background. Last year, the General Assembly, on a bipartisan effort, amended the criteria for granting a variance. It went from a standard of extreme hardship to a much more liberal standard, and that standard was simply that a reasonable use is being precluded. I think it's important that I read it to you. And it says, a variance shall be granted if the evidence shows that the strict application of the terms of the ordinance would unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property, or that the granting of the variance would alleviate a hardship due to the physical condition of the property. Now, a while back, and I have not updated it, but a while back, I took a look at the staff recommendations from July of last year, when this law became effective, to December of last year. And what I found was that for variances, they recommended approval of 15%. They recommended approval of 78% of the use permits, meaning that they recommended denial of 85% of the variances, and they recommended denial of only 22% of the use permits. And I think this shows that the staff is not cognizant of and not recognizing that Cochran has been legislatively overturned, and we have new criteria for granting of variances. Want to address a couple of things in the staff report that you all have seen. On number 1, the staff is discussing that, it's no longer relevant what the staff is saying, that we have a valid by right use, because Cochran has been legislatively overturned. And we can only do a 29-foot wide house. That would not be in keeping with the other homes in the community which is exactly what we were trying to accomplish working with the neighbors. It would create a very narrow, skinny house that goes back. And also, we can't go back the 56 feet because of the severe topography. Staff also stated in number 3 that there are many comparable with lots in R8, and that's not accurate. I have an exhibit I prepared that shows the subdivision in 1911. This is the old subdivision. A lot of it's been re-subdivided, and I show the remnant of the subdivision, and it shows that this is not, in fact, a situation that is generally recurring. I'll let you all take a look at that.
Where's that subdivision from?
The staff makes the comment that this is a dangerous precedent, and I need to address that because variances, by their very nature, are site-specific, and they do not create precedents. Assuming, however, that somehow this is a precedent, it would only be a precedent for a comparable factual situation, not somebody who just wants to create an undersized lot. It would have to be correcting a old grandfathered situation such as this that would be a precedent. 2 things I want to hand out for you all. One is a plat that somehow was not included in the staff report. That may have been our fault. We may not have gotten it to Drew, or there was a change. And it's important that this be part of your package because it shows the setback that we're providing to Libby. And then the second thing is conditions that I would ask you all to impose that deal with tree preservation and tree replacements. This, again, we really worked hard with this community, and this solves a whole lot of problems, and I really hope that you all could find your way to approve this. And I'll hand these exhibits out.
Mr. Lawson, are you addressing all 3 of the reports?
I'm sorry?
Are you addressing all 3 of the reports that we have?
Oh, no. What I'm doing is the subdivision of the 2 lots, and if that's granted, the other 2 get yanked.
Thank you.
Because the other 2 were left just because I didn't want to withdraw them until the compromise got approved by you all, assuming you all would be willing to approve it.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Questions for Mr. Lawson? Yes? Any questions?
Mr. Lawson, you handed us this poster board,
Yes.
and you asserted that I believe you said it demonstrates that there's not a recurring, issue.
Right.
I looked at the poster board and I did not understand how it demonstrates that.
Well, what it talks about, if you look at the state code, and I didn't bring the whole state code, it says something like, is a problem so reoccurring that it would be better to fix this by amending the zoning ordinance than it would be by granting a variance. So the point I'm making is this is not a problem throughout R8 all over Arlington County. It's a problem for maybe a handful of lots in this unique leftover subdivision.
Oh, I see. So what I was looking at was that looks like 80, 75 lots or so did seem very similarly situated, but you're comparing those to lots that are not within that particular 2-street section. Is that right?
Yeah, what they did back in the old days is, and this is before subdivision ordinances and zoning ordinances, they created 25-foot lots. So you come along, you say, I want to buy a piece of property, I want to build my house. And they say, well, how many of these 25-foot lots do you want? Some people say 2, some say 3, some say 4. And this is one of those situations. You see it a little bit in Lion Village and a little bit in Lion Park.
But you would concede that this could recur in this neighborhood in more than one situation, right?
Maybe 1 or 2. But again, you'd have to have the same thing. You would have to have 2 building lots side by side that were owned by, see, in this situation, it's owned by members of the same family. And so when we ran into the problem with the small lot, we were able to go to the family and say, we really need to acquire the neighboring lot. And so we put the 2 together. So it could be possible that if you have a lot that's only 2 of the 25-foot lots next door to it, you have one that has 3, and then you want to re-subdivide, distribute it more equally between the 2, yes, that could reoccur, and it might reoccur here, but it's not a problem that's so great we should amend the ordinance.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah, Madam Chair, question. The staff says the granting of a variance would not be of substantial detriment to surrounding properties as 2 large homes may be constructed on these lots by right. And then they say the subdivision option would provide for more space between the proposed home and the home located at 2256 North Upton Street. Would you discuss that, why that's not viable for you, the subdivision option and and going to the county board versus seeking a variance?
Well, the reason that we went to the re-subdivision that you all have here, and you can see that it's creating 2 pretty much equal-sized lots rather than these 2 and then those 3. And the community, what we're trying to do is build a house that's comparable to others in R8. And we're trying to put it on what is really an R6 lot. And in R6, you have your 2 setbacks, and it's 8 feet, 10 feet. In R8, you have greater setbacks. It's 30% of the required width, which is 21 feet. And so we're ending up with this narrow, long by right envelope. And the problems with that are it just doesn't fit into the neighborhood. You can't put a garage behind the house because of the severe topography. And so as you go back on the lot, then all of a sudden it just drops really straight down. And so it's not logical to build a by right house, and it's not reasonable, in my opinion, to require the building of a by right house. So then what we did is we applied for a package of variances and a package of use permits, and the community objected to that because they felt like it was just too much house on too small a lot. So the solution to that was let's make this lot bigger by taking the excess from our neighboring lot. Now, if this had been laid out in 1911 a little bit longer, we have enough area for 2 R8 lots. We just don't have enough width. Does that help at all?
I guess, no, I'm thinking that you have another path other than the Board of Zoning Appeals.
What would that be?
Can't you ask the county board to essentially re-subdivide this in total?
I don't think so. No, we would need a variance in order to re-subdivide.
Unified residential development?
Yeah, that's what,
You're talking about a residential unified?
right.
In all honesty, I haven't looked at that. Whether that would be viable or not, I don't know. I haven't studied that. This is certainly an easier way to do it. And if we did go unified, we'd probably end up with the same exact thing.
Okay, thank you. We have 4 speakers, 2 minutes each. Mary Ann Mills, to be followed by Bill Johnston.
Good evening. I'm Mary Ann Mills. I'm one of the co-owners of the 2264 North Upton lot. I've lived across the street from this lot for 23 years and plan to live there for another 23 years. We worked hard to find builders that we felt understood the neighborhood, had sensitivities to the neighbors' issues, and more importantly, build beautiful quality homes. This home was the home for my parents. That's why we bought the property about 12 years ago. My mother passed away in this house. My father lived 10 beautiful years in that home across the street from me and my family. That property holds tremendous love and memories for me, and it's been very important with my extended family, many of my neighbors who are here this evening, that it be developed responsibly with sensitivity to the extraordinary uniqueness of the street and with quality structures. And we very much hope that I'm going to be spending the rest of my life looking at these beautiful homes that they have designed for these properties. Thank you.
Thank you. Question? Bill Johnston, to be followed by Susan Spriggs.
Hello, I'm Bill Johnston. I live at 2242 North Upton Street, 2 doors down from this. I've been involved in all of the meetings of the neighbors over this, including many of those at the initial package of variances and use permits that would have tried to deal with this small lot and a larger lot. And I'm here to say that this solution of re-subdividing, even though the lots are non-conforming as it relates to width, in every other way is superior to any other alternative, including the by-right alternative, with the house built on a very narrow lot, essentially putting as big a house as is possible on that lot. So what I want to underscore is that the neighbors, I think, are unanimous or nearly unanimous in preferring this. They were very strongly opposed to the alternatives. And so as an outcome, this is superior, and it's superior to the by right. In particular, the streetscape is significantly improved by having 2 equal-sized lots. And in addition, both of the immediate neighbors have as much or more room, in Libby Scholar's case, much more room between the 2 houses, so more landscaping, more separation. So it's a far superior outcome. I hope you'll approve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Spriggs, to be followed by David Stanley.
Thank you. I'm Susan Spriggs, also one of the owners of the property at 2264. I just want you to know a little bit more about us. You now know Mary Ann living right across the street. We have all lived not only in Arlington, and our roots are in Arlington, but our roots are on North Upton Street. In 1998, we took 2243, a wonderful home on North Upton, doubled it in size, and redid the interior and made that our dream home. Unfortunately, we had to leave with job changes, but that remains our dream home. When it came time to reach out to builders, we were particular because our roots are here and we love Arlington. So we reached out to the people that we felt would build beautiful homes, would build homes that remind us of the home that we had there. And that's why we went with Carl and Jeff. There were other builders who were in fights with the board and wanted to build big McMansions, and that's not what we wanted on that property. I also want to bring to your attention the fact that it's been said, but I want to say it again. It's the neighbors who came to Carl and Jeff and said, why can't you just buy the whole lot and build 2 beautiful homes? They came to us to do that. We were going to put our other lot on the open market, but it was too important to us to have those 5 lots used in a way that the homes that could be built would be special and beautiful homes. So we sold that to the builders. We're under contract with the builders so they could have that space. So we did that in response to what the neighbors were asking for. And Carl and Jeff have met so many times with the neighbors to make everybody happy. And I think at this moment they've done that. So I'm hoping we made you happy too.
Thank you. And the last speaker, David Stanley.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to say a few words. My name's David Stanley. My wife and I own a lot that joins and attaches to the subject property. My only concern was that VA1 and UP1 are previously proposed applications, and they haven't been withdrawn yet. The whole community is vehemently opposed to VA1 and UP1 The new proposal, I think, has been agreed upon by most of the community members I know of, the VA2, 15 VA2. So I just wanted to make that clear that I would be totally opposed to VA1, UP1, but I would go along with the most recent application of VA2. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Question?
A question for staff. Our role here is not to design homes, but to look at the zoning ordinance and to evaluate, in this case, whether there's a hardship that warrants a variance. So our job is not to figure out what's the best solution for this land. We're really looking at very narrowly, does this justify a variance?
That's correct.
So the applicant made some assertions that the standards for hardships have changed. Could you discuss that with us? Because my understanding is that the bar for a hardship still, the bar for a variance still is very, very high, and that many communities routinely reject them across the board.
It is. I could probably have Min Chao Kaur explain this a little better than myself, since she's the legal guru here. But the standard was relaxed slightly. However, the wording did not change much at all. Before, it was more like a total devastation. You can't do anything with the lot at all, basically saying that by the county denying a variance, it's a taking, basically diminishing all value of the land. Now it says unreasonable restriction, but there's still the hardship clause. You still have to prove there's a hardship justifying this variance. And staff's position on this one is that because there are by right options, we can't really justify a hardship for this variance approval.
And that is what some of the testimony referred to, is that another alternative might produce a more pleasant outcome, but there are options for these parcels.
Correct.
Thank you.
Could I respond to that?
Actually, Madam Chairman, I have a follow-up question to staff.
Okay.
Has the Virginia Supreme Court interpreted the statute since it was last amended?
Not that I'm aware of. And to clarify, the language unreasonably restrict has always been in that statute, so it's not really a change in the sense of the standard was changed completely. It was that a phrase was struck, but unreasonably restrict was in there. I believe the language that was, I can't remember. I wasn't prepared to discuss this particular case, so I don't have the language in front of me. But what Mr. Lawson is referring to as far as the Cochran cases, the standard used to be that it's a hardship approaching confiscation, which it no longer is, but unreasonable restriction, that's a language, I believe, that has always been in there. So language was struck, but it wasn't replaced completely.
And is it correct that it was just struck less than a year ago, that it was struck last July? Okay. Thank you.
Brief comment, Mr. Lawson?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's just inaccurate, what you were just told. The legislation says, notwithstanding any other provision of law, general or special, a variance shall be granted if the evidence shows the strict application of the terms of the ordinance would unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property, or, it doesn't say and, it says or that the granting of the variance would alleviate a hardship due to a physical condition relating to the property. And we just explained that the current lot configuration, being undersized and having inadequate width, is unreasonably restricting the utilization of the property. So I submit that this variance absolutely should be granted. And that the staff and the county attorney are exaggerating how this law was. That this law specifically was done to overturn Cochran, and it was to make the obtaining of variances easy to obtain. I can get you, I don't have them with me, but I can get articles that were written when the law was adopted that say exactly what I'm saying.
Mr. Lawson, I'm sorry. Madam Chairman, I don't know. May I go? Okay.
What I'd like to do is not get into an extended legal debate up to a point where I have another issue to bring up before we go forward. So go ahead.
I guess I'll just observe then that, without calling on Mr. Lawson, that there is another paragraph right before the paragraph that Mr. Lawson is quoting that also has a notwithstanding provision in it, and that says notwithstanding any other provision of law, that the applicant must prove the variance under the standard of the variance. So I think we have the battle of the notwithstandings, which is a good reason why we should stop using notwithstanding in future statutes. But I don't know that one statute standing alone is all of our guidance.
Thank you. I want to raise one issue because I have a late-breaking speaker slip, and I thought I made it clear in my opening remarks that you do need to submit a speaker slip for the item of your interest before the item is called. And once we call the item, we don't accept speaker slips. To that end, however, I will ask you if you agree with your neighbors. Libby?
So I am Libby Schollard, and I live at the 2256, and I decided to speak because you were referring to it, and I thought maybe you would be interested in hearing from me, although I hadn't originally planned to speak. So thank you for letting me have a minute to explain my situation. My husband and I bought the house that we live in 40 years ago. We originally planned to try to buy the lot in question, the small lot. We were not going to build on that lot. We were going to use it for an addition that we ended up having to put on going straight back, but we wanted to put the addition on going out to the right. And since that wasn't possible, over the years, we made many attempts again to buy either the lot or the house and the lot. And the timing just wasn't quite right with the previous owner. It is really difficult for me to see the need for any house on that lot. I have to tell you quite frankly, but whatever, if they have the right to build a house, we hope that it will be sized like the others in the neighborhood, and it will not be so close to my house that I can practically shake hands out the window with the people who are next door to me. My house, built in 1912 or 13, I'm not even sure which, for whatever reason, we have no idea why, it was built 4.5 feet from the property line. And so it's really difficult for me to even consider living with a house that is any closer than the house in the last plan that was submitted to you, the plan that has the rezoning of the two lots with two houses.
Thank
and
you.
The house is then 13 to 16 feet from my house.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What is your pleasure? Board? Mr. Malnick? Yes?
I'll make a motion. In case V119315 VA2, I'd make a motion that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution approving the variance as stated in the attached resolution with conditions.
The alternative.
Pardon?
The alternative resolution.
Yes. Yeah,
And what
approve
about-
the variance.
Okay, and what about the trees?
Second.
Mr. Lawson had indicated.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to offer an amendment to the motion.
Mr. Owen.
I would move to amend the motion to add to the resolution the proposed tree protection language that Mr. Lawson circulated to us.
The seconder accept that?
Yeah, and if I could, that's fine with me. I can even make that a part of my motion if possible.
I don't know the legalese of that.
I would ask unanimous consent that the motion be amended to include Mr. Lawson's language.
So ordered. Okay. You ready? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
4-1. Next case.
Okay, these next two cases are associated. We have a variance and a use permit that at this point, since the first variance was approved, we can make a motion to withdraw. This is V-11093-15-VA-1. This is a variance request by Carl Bernstein, Jeffrey Koch owners to permit a main building footprint coverage of 29.4% instead of 28% as permitted, and a total lot coverage of 40.7% instead of 38% as permitted. It's for the construction of a new 2.5-story home. This is on the R8 zoning district. Premises located on a vacant property between 2256 and 2264 North Upton Street.
Mr. Lawson?
Would you be willing to accept a withdrawal?
I certainly would. How does the board feel about that?
I think I want to debate that.
Okay. Knock yourself out. Do I hear a motion?
I move to withdraw.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to withdraw. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Next case.
Next case is the associated use permit V-11093-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Carl Bernstein, Jeffrey Koch to permit a setback of 6.4 feet to the eave and 7.4 feet to the wall of the home, 6.9 feet to the porch eave, and 7.4 feet to the porch base, 7.5 feet to the rear deck, and 5.1 feet to the chimney from the right side property line instead of 13 feet is required. Finally, an aggregate side yard of 13.7 feet instead of 21 feet is required. It's for the construction of a new 2.5-story home with a front porch, right side chimney, and a rear deck. It's in the R8 zoning district. Premises located on a vacant property between 2256 and 2264 North Upton Street.
Mr. Lawson?
Again, I would request that you accept a withdrawal.
I move that we accept the withdrawal.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next case.
Next case is V-10888-14-UP-5, and this is a use permit request by Elaine Capusta to permit a setback of 10 feet to the eave of the new third-floor addition from the 21st Road North right-of-way instead of 25 feet is required, and to permit a building in excess of 2.5 stories within 25 feet of a street right-of-way. It's for a new third-story addition above the existing second-story walls. This is in the R5 zoning district on the premises known as 4133 21st Road North.
Recommendation is for deferral.
I move that we defer, I move to adopt the attached resolution to defer the use permit to the June 15th, 2016 BZA hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Next case.
It's case number V-11090-15-VA-4. It's a variance request by John Argelopoulos to permit a total lot coverage of 56.2% instead of 37% as permitted. It's for the construction of a new driveway expansion in the front yard. It's in the R10 zoning district on a premises known as 4741 Rock Spring Road.
Questions for staff?
I have one question. There was an initial notification of the neighbors when this was first heard. Was there a re-notification of the neighbors that was on tonight's hearing?
Yes, this is, because this is basically a whole new case, we did the same process that we did for the original one.
Thank you.
Thank you. May we hear from the applicant, please?
Madam Chairman, members of the Board of Zoning Appeals, for the record, My name is William B. Lawson, Jr. I represent the applicant. Throughout my career, presenting cases to the Board of Zoning Appeals, I've often heard it said by BZA members, we don't approve these based on specific needs of specific individuals. And I had always understood that that was the case. However, I have been proven wrong in that understanding. And this is not a land use case. It's, to an extent, a civil rights case. And the ADA, the Americans with Disability Act, actually does require that specific needs of specific individuals be taken into account when considering these type applications. Thus, we refiled this case, and when after we refiled it, we submitted a letter from Mr. Mook, who is an expert at ADA law. And you all have probably had an opportunity to look that over, and you know what it says. What it says is that he is legally entitled, the client, the applicant, is legally entitled to this accommodation because he's disabled. He cannot use the rear entrance for a couple of reasons. One is because it's a level down. There was an elevator. I understand it's not functioning now. And also because he cannot turn his car around to go back out facing forward. There's just not insufficient room. He wants to be able to drive straight onto his property, park in front, enter the house, exit the house, and then drive straight off of his property. I want to clarify a couple of things. On the turnaround, there is not adequate room. I have a letter from the engineer that indicates that, and I will go ahead and hand that out to you all for your consideration. There's some discussion about the water runoff, the drainage issue. I had the engineer do a real quick, this afternoon he produced it, a real quick little paragraph explaining what's going on with that. So you have that. We have a statement of support from Washington Golf Country Club, which was handed out last time, and I guess it didn't make it into your package. Have an affidavit from the doctor who is treating the applicant for his illness, and I'm going to hand all these things out to you. Now, the applicant is here, and some of his members of his family are here as well, and they're going to share with you what's going on with respect to his health and why this is so vital that he get this approval. Another thing I want to share is that I've been working, Ms. Dwyer, our neighbor, she and I have gone back and forth all day long trying to come to a resolution so that we could come tonight and say, here, adopt, impose these conditions, and we have an agreement. We're 90% there. We're not 100%, we're 90%. I have a document, she has a document, and I think what we're going to ask you to do, I don't think you can approve this. I think what you can do is say, well, we hear what you're saying. We do think this is approvable, or maybe you could approve it subject to us striking an agreement. Why don't you hear from her, and then if you're so inclined, we could talk about how to handle that. I'll go ahead and distribute these materials that I just referenced and let you all pass those around.
Mr. Lawson? Oh, you have a question? Questions? Yes.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
It's not our practice to give advisory opinions on how we might rule. So the question I have for Mr. Lawson is, does he wish for a deferral?
That's what it sounded like almost, didn't it?
Mr. Melnick?
If there's any way we could get an approval, that's what we would want. Why don't you give me just a moment? I'll come to.
Okay. You want to hold your
Yes.
question?
Yeah, I have a question, Mr. Lawson. My question's about the elevator, because it does seem like that's a good solution and it's in place. But do you know the status and what it would take to fix the elevator?
Otis.
Okay. While we're waiting, we have the owner of the property present who has put in a speaker slip to speak. Would you come forward, please?
Hello, my name is John Argyropoulos. I'm the owner of the property. I lived at 4741 Rock Spring Road for almost 20 years and in Arlington since 1979. My family's lived there with me. So in September, and I really don't like to talk about this, but I was diagnosed with cancer in Vietnam. They attribute it to Agent Orange. Been through 2 chemo treatments. They didn't work. I'm on number 3. Rock Spring Road, when we first bought the house, was not a very busy street 20 years ago. Since we've lived there, they've put in 3 speed bumps on Rock Spring Road because that's a cut-through to get over to Lorcom Lane. Our house is the second house on the street, right beyond the crest of the hill. So you can't see oncoming traffic cresting off of Glebe Road, heading down Rock Spring Road to cut through to really Lorcom Lane. So it is a dangerous situation. My health is a pretty significant issue. And so I'm asking that instead of having to back out onto Rock Spring Road, that I be able to have a circular driveway to drive out onto Rock Spring Road. So that's the essence of this request.
Could you please address the question of the elevator? If it's not operational, can
The
it be?
elevator works sometimes it doesn't. There's only one company that I know that will work on that elevator. They worked on it not too long ago. They're hard to get in touch with. It's a residential elevator, and elevator companies really don't have a lot of interest in residential elevators. That's not their market. The elevator was put in 1996. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. So that's the situation.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Not at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Madam Chair, one quick question. Do you live alone?
No, I have one roommate in the house, and the reason I have a roommate in the house is because sometimes my daughter's finally back from school. She graduated from William & Mary's Law School, but sometimes I'll sleep for 2 days. And, well, you don't know what's going to happen. So
Thank you.
that's what chemo does to you.
And good luck with your health, too, Mr. Antropoulos.
Ms. Morales.
One more question. The pictures that we saw were of your house that looked like there was equipment and construction.
Thing is, the retaining wall to the right side of the house was damaged badly during the earthquake. There was a big tree there whose roots they were actually pushing the wall over more. The wall was leaning right on the right side of the house. The wall was leaning over 4 to 6 inches, and I didn't know when it was going to fall. I knew it had to be repaired at some point. I needed to get it repaired before my health got so bad that I couldn't repair it.
And your front door has steps. Is that correct?
The door has steps, but if we put the driveway in, it's very easy to put a ramp from the driveway up to the side of and just go in the front door. It's not that hard to do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
I
you.
have 3 other speakers,
So-
2 of whom I think appear to
John?
be.
I'm so sorry, but I just wanted to get a clarification on the correct pronunciation of your name so that I say it correctly from now on.
Argyropoulos.
Argyropoulos, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have 2 speakers who appear to be family members, John A. and Demi. Did they wish to speak? Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Demi Argyropoulos. I'm the applicant's daughter.
Sorry.
I don't have too much to add to what my dad has already shared with you. Other than, like he said, I mean, my dad is not one, this is probably incredibly hard for him to kind of show weakness, because he's not like that at all. So I know that was hard for him just now, and I don't think he likes even me sharing stuff like that with anyone. But I can tell you everything he has said, he's casting it in a more positive light than is accurate. Some days, like he said, he will just be in bed, not get up. It's just very day-to-day, and I think anything that would make his life easier is something that should be taken into consideration. So.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Question? Can I ask you? Your father currently drives a vehicle?
Yes.
And you expect that he will continue to drive a vehicle?
I do. Until, I guess, doctors think that should stop. But currently, yes. I mean, he's very...
Well enough to drive?
Yes, he does. I mean, he needs independence. Like, that's personality and everything, but he does like to be as independent as possible. So for now, I think driving...
And so the major issue is backing out onto the street is the only driving issue that he has? Yes,
and that's, I know the elevator was mentioned, but the elevator isn't really relevant to not the backing out in and out of the driveway, but...
But he is able to could he back into the driveway?
I think so. It's just, this will just make, I think, life in general a lot easier. I know that there was some talk that we could make U-turns in that driveway, but that, I mean, maybe if you're driving a sedan, but my dad is a roofing contractor, so he has a huge vehicle, and a U-turn is, I mean, maybe if you back...
Sorry, your dad is a what? I missed that.
A roofing contractor.
Okay.
So he drives a very big Suburban, and trying to make a U-turn in that driveway, I mean, it would take a good 30 minutes.
But he could back in.
He could back in. I mean, it's a busy street, and there's a parking lot across the street, which is very crowded, people coming and going all the time. It is definitely possible. The driveway that hugs my dad's driveway, those neighbors are very particular about not having anyone go onto their driveway, so you would have to be an accurate driver to back in, and also if there is a car parked in my dad's driveway, me, my brother, or the roommate that lives upstairs, you can't back in because we can't go into the other person's property.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have John A. Aeropoulos.
So really, the only thing that I want to clarify is that the elevator won't fit a gurney in it. So it really is completely irrelevant, actually. She probably doesn't remember this, but when I was like 9, he collapsed upstairs. And the paramedics had a hell of a time getting him out of the house. They tried to use that. It didn't fit. Now we know that it doesn't work. So that's like the first thing they're notified about is don't even try that. Not to mention the fact that I've gotten stuck in it probably 100 times as a kid. So it really isn't the best alternative. Also with the neighbor's driveway. So they're not like kind of particular about going on their property. They're very particular. And I get it. And they don't even and I see it all the time, people turning around in our driveway from the parking lot. So sometimes there's a vehicle actually parked right there on the black cement or on the asphalt. So if you're trying to back down that road, I mean, it's not the easiest task in the world. And in all reality, in a couple, pretty soon it's going to need the ramp access and things like that. He also has a horrible back, which he got doing our family business when he was younger. Not a week ago, I had to drive him to the hospital to get checked out. He couldn't walk, doubled over, carrying him to his car kind of thing. So this is really kind of like just a ease of life kind of thing at this point in time. That's all really.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I understand what you're saying about the gurney not fitting in the elevator, but to your knowledge, I'm a little unclear if what sort of efforts have been made to fix the elevator, or if the company is just not fixing it.
It's a huge pain to get it fixed, but it's really just the fact that it's not reliable. Even if, for instance, like if he was sick and he got stuck in there, there's one problem. If he collapses and they try and use that and they can't use it, there's another problem. The stairs make a sharp L, so it's. I don't remember the exact year. I'm sure you could go and look into it, but it was an absolute nightmare getting him out. And this was years ago when he could actually try to assist in that. But at this point in time, with the bedroom going to be on the middle floor for a reason, so that's why we're kind of hoping that this becomes a much easier situation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just one of those things where, day to day, him getting in and out of the house or having to help him, things like that, it's a lot. It would be a great deal easier.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The last speaker is Ellen Dwyer.
Hi, so I'm Ellen Dwyer, and we live in the house to the left of this house, 4747 Rock Spring Road. I was here in February and addressed the zoning board. I think I had everything, nothing's really changed in terms of the application since that time. I will say I don't really want to debate or contest what Mr. Argelopoulos and his kids are saying about his health. We regret his situation deeply. What I think that Mr. Lawson and I were trying to work on today was a way to address his concerns and to address our concerns. And I think from the picture you can see, not just on the right side of the property, but the left side of the property is dug up as well. That work was done subsequent to the variance being denied. And what we're trying to do, Mr. Lawson and I, but the effort really just started today. His email system was down. He didn't see my communication, was to try to develop an agreement where there would be a site plan developed that would show the neighbor, both to us and then to Mr. Smith on the other side, who's stuck in traffic somewhere, to develop a site plan that would accommodate the interests of both. And I think, speaking for myself and Mr. Smith to a certain extent, because he's not here, he should speak for himself, we're interested in doing that in good faith, and if we can reach an agreement that works for us and for Mr. Argelopoulos that would allow him to have the driveway that he would like, but would address the concerns that we have. This is significant coverage overage that's being requested, but in terms of runoff, tree protection, and other concerns, we will support his request. But we do not have that agreement today. We've worked on it. I was at work. He was, whatever, we've been trying, but it's not complete. So what Mr. Lawson and I talked about was one option is deferral. Another option is, you know better than I, potentially you could suggest that you would approve the request subject to the agreement of the parties, but it would have to be subject to the agreement of the parties, and the agreement has not been reached. So again, we're good neighbors, and we are completely prepared to work with him to try and make this work. I think based on the discussions today, we're quite close, but we actually need to see a plan that doesn't exist at this time.
Thank you.
I have a question for staff.
Yes.
I'm not entirely familiar with the range of accommodations that ADA would offer. I know, for instance, could a ramp, a wheelchair ramp, be built on this site without our approval?
Yes, that's correct.
So there could be a ramp from the driveway, and they wouldn't need a variance for that.
Now, what the ordinance allows is a ramp to project into a setback. We've never counted ramps towards coverage, however, landings have if they're above 4 feet, but they already have a landing there. I don't think it's above 4 feet, but they could put a ramp there and connect it to their driveway by right with a permit tomorrow.
Are you aware of any precedent for considering a circular driveway an ADA accommodation?
I have not actually been across any of those cases the almost 7 years I've been here, so I haven't seen any.
I mean, that's the question, is that in the toolbox of ADA accommodation? And is it, are we stepping out of, in other words, and so what are the requirements for someone to get an ADA accommodation? If I wanted a circular driveway in my house because I have trouble backing out of my driveway, what is sort of the guidelines that you would use to evaluate whether that's an ADA situation, or just that I'm not able to do that? Confusion in this case, bringing in ADA here.
So if I can step in, I did have some, I did provide some guidance from the Fourth Circuit as far as what standard to apply. So the burden is preponderance of the evidence, and it's on the applicant to show you with evidence or information that they meet the standard. And the standard is that, first, that the applicant has a disability, which I don't think anyone here contests, and then that the disability can be accommodated through means that are both reasonable and necessary in order to alleviate the hardship so that they can enjoy the property in the same way that a non-disabled person would be able to do. So what a reasonable accommodation and what a necessary accommodation means is that it's narrowly tailored to alleviate the hardship, but not it doesn't necessarily require you to give what is requested or the best possible accommodation, especially when you consider other factors like the health, safety, and welfare of others. So if you're asking, is a circular driveway allowed, it's not really that, it's not binary, it's not yes or no. Nothing is allowed or not allowed. It's a very fact-specific, case-specific analysis.
So we're talking about a driveway that the disabled person wants to use because, I'm trying to figure, so do we have to determine that his driving is impaired and that's the reason that he needs this driveway?
Mr. Smith?
Madam Chair.
The question was for the attorney.
Yeah.
But she didn't answer yet.
Well,
is that what we have to determine, whether his
She's
driving
not our lawyer,
is
though.
Well, I'm just asking, she's offering help, so I was going to...
Well, so I'm answering on behalf of the zoning administrator, but the standard is that you have to find some sort of nexus between the disability and the accommodation. And the reason the staff report doesn't recommend approval of the variance is because at the time we didn't have anything. Right now it seems that we have some evidence that Mr. Argyropoulos has trouble backing out of the driveway. And so again, the staff analysis is, can what he's asking alleviate that hardship, and also are there other alternatives for him to use in order to back out of his driveway without the full circular driveway? And the reason we ask all those questions is because in the February hearing there was testimony about runoff issues and all those things that we just have to balance.
And so, how do I determine if his driving is impaired? Because he states that?
I mean, you have some evidence before you. I don't know that you have to. I don't know that you have to determine.
Mr. Smith.
Madam Chair, just one of the things the ADA says, for example, is, let's say you had a restriction on paving. Said you can't put pavement between on a street, for example. Well, you have a handicapped person. They say, well, I have to have paving. I can't operate my wheelchair in the mud. The ADA would say you have to pave that. That would be a reasonable accommodation. And you see that kind of thing like in parks, for example, where there are paths that are footpaths, but then they'll have a paved portion for reasonable accommodation of those who, so, and, your question about whether a driveway is, there are many different kinds of, I think Menchow said that it is fact specific. The kind of one of the prongs is an accommodation. Will that accommodation, and the person has a disability, are they disabled in such a way that this accommodation will relieve that, in essence, relieve the pain of that disability? Will it eliminate the disability and pave the way for them to be able to do what they want to do? So my problem with this case is that, a driveway is, a circular driveway doesn't seem to me to be the kind of accommodation that a person who is diminishing in their capacity would need, because at some point they're not going to be able to drive at all. And then this accommodation is not for them, it's for someone who is going to drive them about. So, opening doorways, the width of doorways, and whatnot. But this, to me, seems to be a request for a privilege.
Madam, I'm sorry, I thought you were finished. Madam Chairman, I note that the staff report, I think, correctly stated that at the time, before this hearing started tonight, that the applicant had not met his burden of production for establishing the disability. My own opinion is that the applicant has now met a burden of production. There is evidence that, to my satisfaction, that the applicant is asserting and has provided affidavits and testimony to back up the notion that this particular applicant, because of a disability that the zoning administrator has conceded exists, is not able to operate his vehicle in the way that an ordinary person could operate their vehicle at this location, and that operating his vehicle in order to commute to and from work is a normal and everyday activity that's part of how people use their homes. And so I basically feel like those, just to my mind alone, I feel those issues are met. My question is, since I am prepared to, just again, speaking for myself, I would be prepared to use the ADA override of the variance process. I'm a little bit surprised that there's not a proposed condition that the variance would only be permitted so long as the disabled person resides at the property. And I was wondering if first staff could address the appropriateness of such a condition. I don't know what the history of the Arlington County Zoning Board of Appeals is for granting variances based on a disability. Is there a history of doing so, and has the board in the past conditioned those variances on the continued residence of the disabled person? It seems to me that we're creating a permanent change to a temporary problem if in 50 years, there's not a disabled person living here, but the built condition exists. Do you have any response to that notion?
I can't say we've had any precedent for this. We have had one case heard by the BZA, I think in 2012, where we had a shed that was built without a permit, and the BZA conditioned that he would keep it for 5 years until he was an attorney, I believe,
CPA.
and stored his files, tax documents, and things like that. He had to store them for a certain amount of time, and they said, okay, you can store them for 5 years, then the structure must be taken down. Now, that was a shed with no foundation. It was a small structure. This is a serious endeavor to construct this in the first place into the grate, and then try and demolish it and remove it and regrade and everything. It would be hard for us to condition that and enforce it as well.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, to me, the notion of conditioning an accommodation like this based on the continued residence of the disabled person inherently supports the notion of its reasonableness. One risk that we might have as a board is that we would, anytime someone asserted a disability, unless the county went through the process of refuting the disability, that essentially it would be free variances for everyone. But if the variances are conditioned on the continued residence of the disabled person, then since they're the ones paying for it and they're the person they sell the property to would have to remove it, to me, I think that would be an inherent check on people making unreasonable assertions. So having now put it all together, I wonder, Mr. Lawson, do you have any response to the notion of conditioning the variance on having it expire should Mr. Agropoulos, I asked for the pronunciation, I'm going to use it, right? Agropoulos, 2 years after he moves out of the house or sells it, that the variance would expire. What's your response to that possibility?
Yeah, let me if I could commit some hearsay, this is not my conversation. This was a conversation that Martha Moore had with Sherrier, and he's head of the building department, and this is what she told me. I did not participate. What she tells me is that the building department often gives permits to allow elevators be constructed, additions be constructed for people with disabilities. And, what I would submit is if we do approve something that's appropriate for someone with a disability, it should stay so that perhaps someone in the future would come along and have a disability. When my parents got elderly, they had a house just like that one. And we had a circular driveway because it was built before the new coverage law. And I would drive up and I would park it right in front, and there's a little elevator, a little ramp thing that takes you up the steps, and then they could go straight into the house. And I think that's what John has in mind. He wants to be able to drive up, park, go up to the front door, and then go in the front door. So I would respectfully submit that I think this is something that, once approved, ought to remain. Plus, I think it would probably cost maybe $10,000, $20,000 to take it out.
That sounds reasonable to me. Could you comment on on your neighbor's comments, which you also addressed, that you're close but not there?
If my stupid email had not crashed on me last week, I think we'd be here with an agreement. What John is he's got a disease that's progressing, and he would love an approval tonight. Maybe if you all should be inclined, and I don't know if you are or not, but if you would be inclined to grant it, make it a condition that in 10 days she and I have, indicate to the zoning administrator we're in agreement, and if we don't indicate that, we come back next month.
It's with the board at this point. What is your pleasure?
I don't have a question, but I think there's paperwork involved in what the agreement would be that would affect the plans, and I think we need to see what the plans are before we would grant approval.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Madam Chair, in the case, Mr. Lawson, I plan to make a deferral motion if you want to comment. In the case of V-11090-15-VA-4, I move the BZA defer this matter to the June BZA hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Deferred to the June meeting. Please try to work this out. Next case.
The next case is V-11131-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Susan Williams and Bradley Stanford. This is to permit a setback of 24 feet from the North Bluemont Drive right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. One-story front addition. This is in the R6 zoning district on a premises known as 720 North Frederick Street.
Questions for staff? Good heavens. They're all standing there. Any questions? No? We hear from the applicant. Susan Williams, Bradley Stanford.
Actually, my name is Patrick Carter. I'm their architect
Okay.
and the agent on the application. Susan and Brad purchased the property at the end of last year, and tonight celebrate their 1-month wedding anniversary. They're going to be moving into this. They're going to be moving into this house together, and hired me to make the house accessible, to age in place, so that they can live out the rest of their years together in a home that they've made. Brad has lived in Arlington for 27 years, and Susan has lived in Arlington and in that neighborhood for 12 years. I actually live 2 blocks away. So the idea to enclose the existing covered porch is a way to free up space inside the house to relocate the laundry room up to the main level and other functions so that they can live on one level of the house, bringing the laundry room out of the basement and relocating the kitchen into the existing covered porch, which, as we understand, would be a by right endeavor in order to enclose it, but since there needs to be some structural modifications, it is requiring a variance.
Thank you. Any questions of the applicant, agent? Thank you. Just stand by. We have 3 speakers. Maura Quinn, to be followed by David Lemick.
Good evening. I'm Maura Quinn, and I live next door to this property. So we object to the staff recommendation for a variance and also for the use permit for a detached 1.5-story garage, which will be located, from what our perspective is, in the backyard of the house, but from their perspective is on the side yard of the house. With respect to the variance, the Virginia Code says that a variance will only be given if the zoning ordinance is unreasonably restrictive for the utilization of the property, which does not occur here, or if granting the variance would alleviate a hardship due to a physical condition relating to the property or an improvement of the property. And neither one of those conditions occur here. There's no unreasonable restriction, and there's no hardship. In addition, staff did not address or even acknowledge any of the concerns that we had about traffic and pedestrian safety. With respect to the use permit, I have a couple of handouts for you, and I believe that you have already received pictures of what's intended to be built.
Yes, we did get the pictures.
So what's intended to be built is a 24-foot long, 18-foot tall detached garage that's over 700 square feet, and what the applicants claim is their side yard, which is 1 foot from our front yard. And this design and this building is not permitted under the zoning ordinance. The Virginia Supreme Court, in the Klong versus the City of Jericho, held that the words of the ordinance are to be given their plain and natural meaning. The zoning ordinance in section 3.2.5 twice indicates that a detached garage must be in the rear yard of a structure. In addition, the zoning ordinance...
Would you sum up, please?
Sure. So the zoning ordinance also, in the picture that I've just given you, shows that the building must be in the rear yard. So the view that you're seeing here shows what the applicant says is the front yard, which is on Bluemont Drive. The position of the building is going to be in the side yard, which is not allowed under the zoning ordinance. It must be in the rear yard instead of the side yard. In addition, our concerns about the impact on our property value, on flooding, and other things have not been addressed. So we'd ask that the zoning board consider all those things.
Thank you. David Lemick, to be followed by Maria Papathanasis. Oh, I know I did that.
Hi, good evening. Dave Lemick and I'm Maura's husband, live in the same property. I just want to sum up and reemphasize some of the things that my wife said in a little bit more, or not a little bit more, but in plain language. Just when our neighbors brought the package to us, said that they wanted to build the garage, enclose the front porch, and put a front porch on the side. It's a corner lot, which was what makes this a little bit unusual. And you can see from the very first picture that you put up that street is curved. So the houses don't really line up. So if all things being equal, if the houses had lined up and the street was straight, then the garage would indeed be the backyard. But in the plans that they provided to us, they said one side they wanted to extend a front porch on one side and then enclose the front porch on the other side, giving them 2 front yards. So basically, what we're saying that we don't agree that that they are building the garage by right. And again, just to reemphasize, what they intend to do when you look at the picture, the garage is going to be an 18-foot structure by 24, 700-foot square structure, essentially another house that will be 1 foot from our property. And there's other concerns I don't know if my wife mentioned, but along there's a flooding issue. It goes behind that whole row of houses, and then it goes to a drain that's right between our 2 properties. And our concern is that building the garage right there then will push all that water. There's only one place for it to go, which would be right in my front yard. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Maria? I apologize. Please state your name.
That's quite all right. It's Papa Thanasio. You did quite well, actually. I'm here because we live on the other side of the house on Frederick Street. And our concern is basically about the structure that is wanting to be built. As Mr. Lemick mentioned, the water flows from the top of Frederick Street all the way through our property and to that drain. And we are very concerned that there will be flooding if this huge structure is built. Also, 18 feet is very big to have right in front of our front yard. It's going to affect the value of our property. We're not going to be able to enjoy our property the way we have been for the past 40 years. My mother, who signed the variance, she's 83. She really didn't quite understand that such a large structure was going to be built. And she agreed to it basically because she wanted to be a good neighbor. But our concern is basically the value of our property is going to be affected, the flooding that will likely occur by blocking that whole area of their yard. So we agree that they should not have the permit.
Question for the applicant? Your mother is Agatha?
Yes.
And she sent us a letter.
She signed it.
Okay.
She was asked to sign it. My mother's 83, and I was not there when she signed it. She did not understand.
Do you live in the property?
I live with her, yes.
And are you the property owner? Or
she is the property owner, and she has asked me to come tonight because when she found out that such a huge structure was going to be built right in front of our backyard, basically.
And which structure are you talking about?
I'm talking about what they call the garage, but it's 18 feet, 700 square feet. It's almost as big as my condo used to be. So
I understand now. I just want to clarify. Thank you.
Certainly.
Thank you very much. Staff, could you please clarify what it is we're reviewing and what is permitted by right?
Yes, the subject of this application for a use permit, there is no variance associated with this. This is just a use permit for the one-story addition that's to be 24 feet from North Bluemont Drive. The detached 1 1/2 story garage is allowed to be 1 foot from the side yard, 8 feet from the main building, and 10 feet from the rear yard. The rear being the lot line to the left on the plat, measuring 84.59 feet. So that detached 1 1/2 story garage is complying with all zoning ordinances. That could be built by right. That's why it's not a subject of the use permit, and it is mentioned in the report as being by right.
May I ask a follow-up question?
Question?
So as I understand it, if we were to vote no and deny this use permit, the garage could still be built. Is that what you're saying?
That is correct.
So whether we vote yes or no, it has no impact, in your opinion, on the garage?
That's correct.
If the neighbors disagreed about your views on the by right allowability of the garage, where should they bring those? What's their mechanism for raising those concerns?
If a building permit is approved by the zoning administrator, they have 30 days to appeal to you all, the BZA.
Okay, so it might come back to us, but the neighbors would have to take a different action than opposing tonight's motion.
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
Just
Question.
follow. So, if the neighbors disagree with the way that the zoning ordinance has been interpreted in this case, their relief is to go to you, or where do they? How do they know when specifically? How do they know when the building permit is up?
They really wouldn't. They would have to follow up with it.
Okay.
Follow up with staff. You can check online and find out the status of building permits. And once zoning signs off on it, they have 30 days to appeal to you all, the BZA.
Okay, so it would be up to the resident to monitor the
Correct.
website that shows building permits.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Or, of course, come in or call staff.
Okay.
Or ask the applicant. In the interest of neighborliness.
So we're just talking about
Questions?
the porch.
Mhm. Yes, we still have the subject at hand. One-story front addition.
One of the concerns was sight lines, but I understand this is a similar size structure.
Exactly the same size.
No, it protrudes 1 foot farther closer to the street. The proposal is to make it protrude 1 foot further closer to the street, which would be a reduction in the sight lines. No? Am I misunderstanding?
Show you. The existing structure is 7.9 feet wide by 16 feet deep and is 24 feet from the street, and the new one will be the same.
Which street?
North Bluemont Drive.
Okay. And
It is building on the same footprint.
Exactly. There's an existing plat a few pages back before the proposed, if you take a look at that one.
they're not proposing they're just proposing to enclose, not to extend the footprint at all?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
So do you feel that would change the sight lines by enclosing?
No. I take it back.
Other comments, questions? Do I hear a motion?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Smith?
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution granting the use permit in V-11131-16, use permit 1. It's not a variance.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next case, please.
This is V-11132-16-UP-1. This is a use permit by David Rook and Mona Ragged to permit a setback of 2.4 feet to the eave and 3 feet to the wall of the addition from the right side property line instead of 8 feet as required. Also 13.8 feet to the eave and 14.4 feet to the wall of the addition and screen porch. And also 20.5 feet to the deck from the 22nd Road North right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. This is also to permit an addition in excess of 2 1/2 stories within 25 feet of a street right-of-way. So the construction of a new 3-story rear addition, the screen porch, and a rear deck. It's in the R6 zoning district, premises known as 2223 North Quantico Street.
Thank you. Questions for staff? Oops, I lost two of them. Okay, we hear from the applicant, please.
Good evening. I'm David Rook, and my wife Mona and I, sitting in the back of the room, are owners of this property and have been for 14 years, and we plan to grow old in this home. Our two children are also present for this lesson in civics, although it's way past their bedtime. This is my eldest's second time here, as my wife was actually pregnant with him when we were here in 2003 for the same exact type of request for a use permit that allowed us to build the porch off the back, the same exact width of the house. Fortunately, and much to our delight, that was approved at the time, and we were able to build the porch that you see there. At that time, we were newlyweds and could only afford the porch, but with a growing family and a desire to stay in this home, we now want to build an addition off the back. In a word, this is a wonderful house built in 1929 at the height of the Depression. We found two newspapers from the week the stock market crashed inside the walls of it during the last renovation to prove it. That said, the house is only 27.5 feet wide, and it sits on a lot that's only 45 feet wide. How our house came to violate the current setbacks is beyond us. We don't quite understand if it predates the road. We certainly know that it predates the home to the south of it, which was built around 1994 or 1995. We've been told that if we were to build this house on this lot today, it would be about 12 feet wide. We are simply looking to build to the width of the existing structure. The plans call for two narrow rooms side by side. One's just 12.5 feet wide and the other is 14.5 feet wide. And we really can't get much narrower with those rooms or they'll be unusable. And our feeling, wider and shallower is better than narrow and deeper, and our neighbors are all fully in support of that trade-off. Our application contains a letter of support from our neighbor to the adjoining property to the south, and no neighbor of ours is here to object. We hope you'll look favorably upon recognizing the physical hardship of the property. It's our feeling especially that the current setback requirements from 22nd Road are not in keeping with the consistent look of the neighborhood. At present, our house sits about 22 feet from the curb and about 14.8 feet from the sidewalk, while our neighbor's home directly across the street sits about 16 feet from the curb, yet it doesn't have a sidewalk. So our house already feels considerably further from the road than the house across the street. And as to the house to the south of us, again, we have the support of our neighbor to keep within the existing width of the house for that. And so we hope you'll grant this use permit so we could build this addition. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for the applicant?
Madam Chair, the applicant said a couple of times that he had support from his neighbors, but the staff report says that there is none. You have the letters with you?
I did bring another copy. It wasn't included.
Okay, thank you.
This is the neighbor to the south of us that abuts the property.
Petition on the back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions of the applicant? No speakers?
This is the Rook case. 32, 111, 30.
You good? Questions, comments, motion?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Smith.
Owing to the narrowness of the lot, I'd move that we approve the alternative resolution, which is to approve the use permit as requested and as advertised. And therefore, I'd move that the Board of Zoning Appeals approve special use permit case number B1113216UP1, the alternative resolution.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No. I would have approved the staff recommendation.
4-1. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Melnick?
Okay. Call the next case, please.
The next case tonight, the next two actually are deferrals, and they're both associated cases. This is V-11133-16-VA-1. It's a variance request by Arvine Nandikar to permit a total lot coverage of 37.4% instead of 35% is permitted. This is for the construction of a new one-story front addition, a new front porch, and a new one-story rear addition. This is in the R10 zoning district, premises known as 3506 25th Street North.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the attached motion to defer the subject use permit to the June 15, 2016 BZA hearing.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Do you need one for the variance too, or just the use permit?
My understanding is I had to wait till it was called.
Yeah.
That was the variance. We'll call the use permit now.
That was the variance. Okay.
Yeah, so that case is deferred. Yeah, so, yeah, the deferral is approved. So call the next case, please.
The next case is the associated use permit, V-11133-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Arvind Nandikar to permit a setback of 23.6 feet to the addition and 17.6 feet to the eave and 18.6 feet to the porch base from the 25th Street North right-of-way instead of 25 feet is required. It's for the construction of a new one-story front addition and a new front porch. It's in the R10 zoning district, also on a premises known as 3506 25th Street North.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the attached motion to defer the subject variance to the June 15, 2016 BZA hearing.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes. It's deferred. Call the next case, please.
Next case is also a deferral. This is V-11134-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Peter and Monica Irving to permit a setback at 3.7 feet to the second-story eave and 4 feet to the eave and 5 feet to the wall of the new two-story addition from the right side property line instead of 8 feet is required. Also 8.8 feet to the second-story cantilevered addition from the left side property line instead of 10 feet is required. Also an aggregate side yard of 12.5 feet instead of 18 feet is required. It's all for the construction of a new two-story rear addition, new second-story rear cantilevered addition, and an eave overhang for a new second-story addition above the first floor walls. It's in the R6 zoning district on a premises known as 4901 16th Road North.
Madam Chairman, I would move that we adopt the attached motion to defer the subject use permit to the June 15, 2016 BZA hearing.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Next case, please.
Next case is V-11135-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Adrian Webster and James Finch. This is to permit a setback of 15.3 feet to the eave and wall extensions and 20.4 feet to the deck from the 20th Road North right-of-way instead of 25 feet is required. It's for the construction of new eaves for a new second-story addition above the first floor walls. Also a new left side second-story deck. It's in the R6 zoning district on a premises known as 2000 North Lexington Street.
Questions of staff? Hear from the applicant, please. James Finch.
James Finch, the owner, along with my wife, Adrian Webster. So basically, we're looking to go for extend out the back and build a upper story on the existing property, and we're going for a very high insulation factor, which makes the walls wider, quite a lot wider. So.
Any questions for the applicant?
Go ahead.
And we have letters from several neighbours.
Sorry? Oh.
That's what
That's what we're looking for. Thank you.
I'll take them all and pass them down. Yeah.
Mr. Owen?
That I was going to ask for those, so I got them.
There you go.
I just thought about it and it happened.
Okay, thank you. We have one speaker, Patricia Shields.
I'm just the builder, and I'm here to answer any questions if you have any questions about
Okay, anybody have questions of the builder? Hearing none, thank you.
The letters are from the immediate neighbours that are either on the lot lines or across the street.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Smith.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution approving the use permit in V11135-16-UP1, subject to the conditions listed in the resolution.
Second?
Thank you. Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
This case?
Next case is V-11136-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Robert and Margaret Pruskowski to permit a setback of 18.2 feet to the eave and 19.2 feet to the addition from the 25th Street North right-of-way instead of 25 feet is required. So the construction of a new two-story right-side addition. It's in the R8 zoning district, premises known as 4010 25th Street North.
Questions of staff? Here for the applicant, please.
Oh, yes. I wear 2 hearing aids, so I might not hear you. We have lived there since 1983, and we are now at that age where we want to stay there, and my wife cannot go up and down steps very well. It's a 2-story house. And so when we decided to add on to the house, we went to an architect and said, well, how we could do this. And the architect came up with a design, which you have, I believe. And it's in addition to that picture right there where the door and the 2 windows that you see in the forefront will be taken out, and they'll move the wall to the right for the addition. And it'll be a story and a half. Originally, we wanted a story, but the architect said, well, if you want to keep in consonance with the neighborhood to make it look right and to keep it nice for all our surrounding friends, we recommend that you add a story and a half, which turned out to be much more than what we wanted. But we agreed to that architectural approach because it looks better. It does look better. And so our neighbors, we talked to them about it. They said, oh, yeah, there's no problem with that. And the house's original frontage from the street has been there since the late 20s, early 30s. When we bought the house in 1983, it's been there for as long as we know. And so all we're doing is trying to accommodate my wife. We'll put a washer, dryer, bathroom, and handicap interior so that we can move around on that first floor. And the upper floor, when my grandchildren come to visit us, they can have it.
Thank you.
Any
Questions for the
questions?
applicant? Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion. Okay. In case V1113616UP1, I move that the Arlington BZA adopt the attached resolution granting the subject use permit with conditions as stated.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next case tonight is V-11137-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by William and Mara Doss to permit a setback of 14.1 feet to the screen porch and landings from the rear property line instead of 21 feet is required. So the construction of a new rear screen porch with 2 landings. It's in the R6 zoning district on a premises known as 2305 North Pocomoke Street. And you all have revised reports in your packet regarding the tree line in the backyard tonight.
Which adds the condition 4.
Correct.
Questions for staff? Hear from the applicant, please.
Hi, thank you very much for hearing our application tonight. I'm Bill Dawes. My wife regrets that she cannot be here tonight. She's taking care of our 2 boys. So when we purchased our home last year, we were made aware of some structural issues with the existing deck. As you can see the pictures, it's a very large deck. It's about 40 feet by 8 feet. We'd like to request that we build a screened in porch in place of that, but it will be closer to the rear setback line. We've discussed all the plans with our neighbors, including the ones adjacent. As you can see in the pictures, we did remove some of the trees after discussions with them. Some of the insects that were eating the original deck were also eating the trees, and there were issues that they had tree branches falling into their yard during some of the recent ice storms. So we do plan to build a more natural, manageable hedge planting after the construction is complete.
So you don't have any objection to condition 4?
No, gladly accepted.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant?
I'm curious, there's 2 lots that are unbuilt. Do you know who owns them? Or maybe I'll ask staff the
Right
question.
across the street off 23rd.
Behind you.
They're landlocked.
Yes, as far as I know, the Powells, who own 6239, own both those 2 lots.
So they would be speaking for all those lots?
Correct.
Going back, okay. Thank you.
Other questions? No speakers? Okay. At the board.
Madam Chair?
Ms. Malice.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution approving use permit V11137-16-UP-1, subject to the conditions listed in the resolution. And it's definitely the new
Revised.
the revised staff report.
Thank you. Second? Thank you. Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next case?
Next case is V-11138-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Christian and Karen Randisi. It's to permit a setback of 5 feet to the carport from the right side property line instead of 8 feet as required. Also 19.6 feet to the eave and 21.6 feet to the mudroom addition and carport from the 30th Street North right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. It's for the construction of a new right side carport and a 1-story front mudroom addition. It's in the R8 zoning district on a premises known as 6319 30th Street North.
Questions of staff? Hear from the applicant, please.
Hi, I'm Chris Randisi. This is Karen. We're the owners of the property. We purchased this house over 11 years ago and have had plans to do an addition or something larger. So we are, in addition to the setback things we're asking for, we're doing a larger addition to the house, which is all compliant to all the setback and lot coverage codes and requirements. So we are asking for essentially the ability to build a carport where that trellis is so that we can park a covered car there and also add a foyer/mudroom to the front of the home that will encroach on the front setback. The current floor plan of the house is a little bit tricky. It was built in 1950, and there's some issues with the staircase being compliant. So the foyer in the front would give us the ability to reconfigure that staircase and bring it up to code. That's essentially what we're asking for.
Thank you. Questions of the applicant?
Madam Chairman, I'm ready to make a motion.
Mr. Hill?
I move that we adopt the attached resolution granting the subject use permit with conditions.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Next case?
Next case is V-11139-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by John and Rosemary O'Keefe to permit a setback of 5 feet to the eave and 5.3 feet to the wall from the left side property line instead of 10 feet as required, an aggregate side yard of 13.3 feet instead of 18 feet as required. It's for the construction of a new 1-story left side mudroom addition. It's in the R6 zoning district. It's on the premises known as 4826 24th Street North.
Thank you. Questions for staff? Pardon me. Can we hear from the applicant, please?
Hi there. My name is John O'Keefe. I'm the owner, along with my wife, of the property. We're looking to build a relatively small mudroom off the side of our house. The purpose of the mudroom is to increase our storage and to kind of declutter our house. Any of you with kids know the house quickly fills up with cleats, soccer balls, and a lot of clutter. So That's the intent. It would give us more storage, make it more livable for us, and be a big improvement. So that's it. I want to thank you. Any questions?
Questions for the applicant? Applicant was the only speaker, so it's with the board.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Malice.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution approving use permit V11139-16-UP-1, subject to the conditions listed in the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Next case.
Next case is V-11140-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Spyro Renitis and Julia Young, and this is to permit a setback of 18.5 feet to the eave and 18.9 feet to the porch base, and also 24.5 feet to the new second-story cantilevered addition, all from the 4th Street North right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required, and also 19.7 feet to the eave and 21.2 feet to the wall, a new 2-story addition from the North Garfield Street right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. It's for the construction of a new front porch, new cantilevered second-story front addition, and a new 2-story right side addition. This is in the R6 zoning district on a premises known as 3003 4th Street North.
Questions for staff? We hear from the applicant, please. Hi.
I'm Julia Young, and I live with my husband, Spiro Reiniotis, and our 3 children at 3003 4th Street North. And when we moved into our house, it fit us just fine, and then we had a surprise 3rd baby. And so we would like to petition for a use permit to expand our house.
Any questions? Hearing none, thank you. Put the board.
Thank you to the board.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution approving use permit V11140-16-UP-1, subject to the conditions listed in the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience. Next case.
Next case is V-11141-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Michael and Kathleen Cahill. It's to permit a setback of 18 feet to the deck from the rear property line instead of 21 feet as required. It's for the construction of a new rear deck. This is in the R27 zoning district, premises known as 3533 22nd Street South.
Questions for staff? Applicant?
Thank you. I'm Michael Cahill, the owner of the property. My wife is in Germany at this point. Sorry she can't attend. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the applicant?
Madam Chair, real quickly, I'm just trying to find the letters of support to determine if the neighbor to your rear has been shown the plans and agreed.
I petitioned.
Yes.
That's a yes.
It is
Thank
here.
you.
It's on the very top if you look at the first name.
36.
Collier.
2136.
Too late. Okay. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Okay. That was in the previous case.
Oops.
Okay, that satisfies my question. Thank you.
Okay. We need to apologize to John Higgy. I did not get your speaker slip, hence you were not called. This was a previous case, right? Which has already been decided.
Right. All right.
Were you in opposition to that case? Okay, let's dispose with this first, okay? All right. Any questions for the applicant? Mr. Cahill?
Madam Chair,
Hearing none, yes.
I'd like to make a motion.
Mr.
Okay.
Melnick?
In case D 1114116 UP1, I'd like to move that the BZA adopt the attached resolution granting a use permit for the rear yard setback of 20 feet with conditions as stated.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Now, let's hear from Mr. Hagee. And before you begin, I just want to remind you that we have one more case that was deferred from the beginning of the meeting before we take our break. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, could you just clarify who is the speaker and what are they doing?
You can do that.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board, professional staff, esquires, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Hyguy. I'm a resident of Arlington, Virginia, and I noticed V-1140-16-UP-1 on your agenda. And I like to walk, I like to bike. I see a lot of these are getting approved, but I feel that Arlington County should perhaps draw a line and assess more the environmental impact. When you have a larger footprint of a house, you're going to have a larger carbon footprint. When you are saving the tree is great, and that's to be commended, of course, but what about the turf? What about the worms that nourish the robins that are in the turf? Arlington does not need another McMansion. Setback is important aesthetically. Grass is important to see while walking through this wonderful neighborhood, and I was hoping you guys would go not approve this one, but thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, was that on the Julia Young?
Correct. And
yes.
Your, Madam Chair, just to get clear on the record where Mr. Ivy lives.
You provide your address for the record.
My mailing address is 421 Wilson Boulevard, which is in walking distance of my residence. For security reasons, I do not wish to disclose my residential address.
Okay.
So you're not a neighbor?
No, ma'am, but I am a resident of Arlington County.
Certainly. I got it.
Okay.
Thank you. You call 80913 UP2.
No, it was just a question.
Is Mr. Sean Norton present? Okay. We postponed your item since you weren't here when we first heard it.
Yes, apologies for being late, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Would you call the item again, please, Mr. Knoxon?
Yes. This is case number V-10809-13-UP-2. This is a use permit amendment request by Sean Norton, and this is to permit a setback of 6.8 feet from the right side property line instead of 8 feet is required. And this is to bring a rear porch into compliance with the previous use permit approval. This is in the R6 zoning district, premises known as 4018 9th Street South.
Thank you. May we hear from the applicant?
So in order to build the porch, I received a variance or a use permit, and it was in compliance with the original plat. And then when I had it resurveyed, the surveyor discovered that the distance wasn't 7 feet, it was 6.8 feet. So I have a mobile home, slowly migrating, but it's slow, which is good. But so I'm trying to get it in compliance with the new survey.
That's a new one. Mobile
I was trying to think of jokes for this one, but you did it. That was better than I think I could think of.
Got a lot of time to
This time of night, there must be something. Yes.
I'm ready to move approval. I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution granting use permit V-10809-13 UP-2, subject to the conditions listed in the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
For waiting. We will take a 10-minute break, and then we'll be back for the appeal.
It's multiple, yeah.
brought different donuts this time. I won't bring the jelly ones again. I have cookies too, so you're welcome to whatever you want.
I know it. It's exciting.
Oh, finally.
No, it's at the middle of the frickin' eighth. Oh, where you saw it earlier was 1-1 for a long time? Yeah.
What's his name? Scott Sizemore, does he still play for them?
What is his position?
Yeah,
More.
he was catcher, I believe. But I don't think he's anybody.
Right. Yeah, he's not. I know he wasn't playing today. I don't know if he's still on the roster. Let me see if I can pull up the whole roster.
He graduated from my high school and
Oh,
then
did
also
he?
went to VCU as
Oh,
well.
really?
While I was there,
Oh,
so I
really?
got to see him play.
Oh, yeah. That's fun.
His
That's
sister
fun.
was a year older than me.
Well, I played baseball competitively. I played, from Little League through. And I played with a couple of kids, 2 or 3 kids who played in the pros. Frank Taman. Who were throwing 85, 90 miles an hour, but I could hit them. I choked up, and I hit for average. And I was the leadoff batter, and I was a catcher, starting catcher.
Bottom line is,
Very funny.
that was a good time back then.
Oh, it was great. The basketball coach and baseball coach. But the baseball, he was like, he kissed me.
We had a bunch of guys from high school. Especially David Wright,
Oh, yeah.
Mets.
Yeah.
He graduated. What's his name? Kadir. His sister graduated with me.
Turned out a bunch of studs down that way, down in the
BJ
Tidewater.
Upton, too, but he got kicked out after the sophomore year. His mom was the dean of our school.
Really?
She made him go to Christian school because his grades were so bad.
Oh, he wants to speak on one.
Not a lot of material.
Not a staff report.
There's a report.
Also, because I had to leave, do we still form this up? Or just chuck it?
Yeah, if that's the case, that was the only thing.
They said that.
Excellent. I mean, by dealing with this adversity, you get the benefit, you get the reward. Before the gun shop. So a lot of people ask this because they're confused.
This is
The otherness.
Ladies and gents, can you take a seat, please? I'll repeat some of the ground rules from the beginning of the meeting. A long time ago. Appellants in this case have 20 minutes. In the aggregate, there are 4. And most speakers, other speakers, will have 2 minutes. I don't have speaker slips that indicate that there are organizations represented. If that is the case, that's 3 minutes. But we have a lot of speakers, obviously. Not as many as there are in the room, but we have a lot of speakers. So I would ask you to be succinct. I will call 2 speakers at a time so that the next speaker can move to the front of the room and we can expedite it. And if it's the case, when you stand up and the previous 10 people have made your point, you can so indicate, and that will move things along as well. Thank you. I appreciate that. Staff, please.
This is B-11130-16-APP-1, an appeal by Julia Young, Emily Hughes, Bernadette Brennan, and Nathan Guerrero of the issuance of a certificate of occupancy by the zoning administrator for a retail firearms dealer in the C1 zoning district on the premises known as 2300 North Pershing Drive. Okay, you ready?
Oh, would you like to give a presentation?
Very brief.
Very brief. That would be lovely.
In the interest of time. The zoning office received an application for a certificate of occupancy to permit the retail sale of firearms in January 2016. The proposed location of the retail store is at 2300 North Pershing Drive, which is located in the C1 local commercial zoning district, where retail uses are permitted by right. And based on the information provided at the time of the application that was relevant to the review and the approval of the requested land use, the certificate of occupancy permit was granted. And our position is that it was granted properly. The appellants have raised several points relating to the issuance of the CO permit that are addressed in the staff report. So in the interest of time, I can respond to questions about them. And just ask that we recommend that you make findings in the attached resolution that would determine the CO was issued properly. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions first?
Sure, one quick question.
Yes, sir.
Is the office able to determine who the owner of this building is?
So the building was constructed, I want to say 2004, and then divided into commercial condominiums. So the subject retail space, yes, sorry, there are multiple owners. Yeah.
Commercial condos is enough for me.
Got it.
Madam Chairman, one question.
Ms. Malice.
If the zoning administrator learns of new facts after the certificate of occupancy has been filed, facts that might affect that certificate, what is the process that
after it's been issued, you mean?
After it's been issued, if you learn of new facts are brought to your attention regarding the occupancy of that site, what would be the process for you to review that and reconsider the occupancy permit?
We'd have to investigate. It would depend on what the circumstances were. Sometimes it might require visiting the site and observing something or behavior or activity that was that may be not consistent with the approval. It might require other types of research. It's hard to say, but we'd investigate, and then depending on what we found, there is a period of time during which it can be rescinded if the use was, or the activity or whatever was happening was found to be inconsistent with the original approval.
What is that period of time?
60 days, I believe.
So someone has 60 days to, you have 60 days to review it, or?
We have 60 days. I may defer to the county attorney's office, but that's basically refers to the period of time after which point the vesting of the activity or the use has occurred, and so there's a assumption that after that period of time, if I've been allowed to do something, that I can continue. Within that time period, if we discover a mistake has been made or something happens, we have the ability to revoke the approval.
But not after 60 days.
Well, so if I can just clarify, the question you're asking, the new information, if the new information reveals that there was fraud in the original application, that is an exception to the 60 days.
Okay.
Because the 60 days is a vesting of a decision of the zoning administrator. But if her decision was never made with correct information because it was based on fraudulent information, then that's different.
Let's say the permit was issued for one purpose, and now there's a different purpose being used. Is that?
Well, so there's a difference between fraudulent information and then violation of the permit. And so if the permit was issued for one thing and then it was being used for something else, it's not that the permit was improperly issued, it's that they're currently violating the existing CO.
I wasn't so concerned about improperly issued, but just that something new has come to their attention. But I guess there's two different cases. One is improper, there's facts that the zoning administrator may not have had or didn't have correctly, and then the other side. Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Other questions, staff? Okay. First, we have the appellant, Bernadette Brennan. Ms. Brennan, are you the only representative of the appellant?
This evening, I'll be the only one speaking for the appellants, yes, thank you. Good evening, members of the board. I am Bernadette Brennan. I am a resident of Arlington County. I was under the impression I would have only 5 minutes to speak, so this should be mercifully short. This appeal is not about regulating a gun shop, and it is not about the Second Amendment. It is about errors committed by the zoning administrator in her supervisory capacity, and it seeks revocation of a certificate of occupancy that was issued in error. The appeal documents provide ample support for the appeal. So this evening, I'd like to take this opportunity just to speak to a few points that the zoning administrator made in her response to the appeal. Those points relate to the true ownership of the enterprise, the federal firearms laws, and the identity of the business. The true owner of this business is Lauren Pratt. This is a 16-year-old minor. She herself has made statements that she is the true owner of the business. In her response to the appeal, the zoning administrator does not address Lauren Pratt's statements. Instead, she addresses Dennis Pratt's statements. Mr. Pratt is Lauren Pratt's father. In these statements, Mr. Pratt first says that the daughter is the true owner and operator of this shop, and that he is basically a straw man because it is unlawful for his 16-year-old daughter to enter into contracts and to have the licensing required to own and operate a gun shop in Arlington, Virginia. But according to the zoning administrator, Mr. Pratt later recanted these statements, and it is on those recanted statements that she relies. But recanted statements are not reliable. They are self-serving. To find the reliable statements, we need to go back where Mr. Pratt said that Lauren Pratt is the true owner and operator of this business. Those statements, taken together with Lauren Pratt's statements, provide reasonable grounds for the conclusion that the true owner of this business is a 16-year-old minor. As such, this business is unlawful. By the zoning administrator's own admission, a 16-year-old is incapable of entering into contracts. Furthermore, a 16-year-old is not eligible to hold a federal firearms license, which is required to operate a gun shop. The certificate of occupancy for this enterprise was issued in error. The error continues, and it must be reversed. And to speak to the 60-day notice that was just the 60-day window that was discussed moments ago, we filed the appeal within those 60 days. We also filed a letter of requesting revocation within those 60 days. I'd like to turn now to the federal firearms license. This appeal does not seek to have the zoning administrator enforce the federal laws. The appeal asks the zoning administrator to perform her supervisory duties in ensuring that the use of the premises complies with the law. The certificate of occupancy itself states that the premises described under this application, and that includes the use, are in compliance with law. The zoning administrator makes this determination. This is a supervisory function, not enforcement. The zoning administrator made the determination that this business is compliant with the law, but she did so in error. Mr. Pratt obtained a federal firearms license, but after the certificate of occupancy was issued. The certificate of occupancy was issued in error. The enterprise could not proceed at the time. Furthermore, the true owner and operator is a minor who cannot hold a federal firearms license. This business was not compliant when the certificate of occupancy was issued, and it is not compliant today. The zoning office also erred when it categorically excluded the business from proper assessment simply because it is a gun shop. This preferential treatment is reversible error. The Virginia Code relied on by the zoning office does not speak to the regulation of gun shops. It speaks to the possession of firearms. But even if it did speak to the regulation of a gun shop, it only prohibits local regulation absent another law. In other words, Richmond is saying to local governments, you cannot sua sponte, you cannot of your own initiative regulate gun possession, ownership, purchase, transfer, unless there is another law that allows it. And we have it here. We have the zoning ordinance, which states that any use of a premises in Arlington County must be in compliance with the law, and we have the relevant law, which is the federal firearms law, which says that you cannot run a gun shop unless you have a federal firearms license. The owner and operator of this shop does not have that FFL. The zoning office erred in not properly assessing whether the use of these premises comply with the law. Again, I want to remind the board that the role of the zoning administrator is not enforcement. That is not what this appeal is arguing. The zoning administrator does have a supervisory role to ensure compliance before there is a violation which would then require enforcement. It is supervision, not enforcement. And here, the zoning administrator failed in her supervisory capacity, and the appeal asks the board to reverse the error and revoke the certificate of occupancy. Finally, I'd like to speak to the idea of the wrong entity. The certificate of occupancy was issued to the wrong entity. It was issued to Broadstone Securities, LLC, doing business as Old Town Arms. In fact, we have 16-year-old minor doing business as Nova Armory. Two different sets of facts. And these facts are material. This is information that is required in the application. In fact, this information is the first information required in the application. It is the beginning of the application. The identity of the entity. This was a material misstatement, which is grounds for revocation. It was a material misstatement at the time of the application, and it is ongoing. As such, the certificate of occupancy was issued in error, and the appeal asks the board to reverse the error and revoke the certificate of occupancy. For these and the other reasons stated in the appeal documents, the appeal asks the board to reverse the zoning administrator's error and revoke the certificate of occupancy. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for Ms. Brannon? Thank you.
Okay. Have you, in reference to the owner of the LLC, Nova Armory, have you done any research in the Virginia SEC to substantiate what you're saying about the ownership? Have you found anything to support what you're saying about a minor owning Nova Armory?
Yes, we have. Broadstone Securities LLC is an LLC that's established in the state of Virginia. It costs about $50 to do it. And Dennis Pratt is listed as the person that's the agent of the LLC.
Mm-hmm.
Nova Armory is listed as a trade name, so is Old Town Armory. But the fact is that the owner and operator, in fact, as a practical matter, and this is what gets to the material misstatement. The application uses a straw man, a perfectly valid LLC with a trade name. The wrong trade name, but a trade name. But the fact is that it's being run by a 16-year-old. And these facts are not ones that are developed out of thin air. These are in a variety of publications, and they are statements made by both the operator-owner, Lauren Pratt, and by the agent for Broadstone Securities, Dennis Pratt.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Question?
I do have one question. Thank you. The zoning administrator, on the question of whether in her supervisory capacity she should have been aware that the company did not have a firearms license at the time that it was, the COO was issued. Their argument is that given that they do not have the authority to enforce either state or federal laws, that their practice is not to do this kind of research before issuing the COO. Do you see that differently?
Yes, we do. This is, it says throughout the ordinance and throughout the Arlington websites, for example, on starting a business in Arlington, that you must have in order all of your local, state, and federal licenses. You must be compliant with the law. If the due diligence is not being conducted, if it has not been conducted in the past, that is no excuse for failing to do it now and in the future. We have come to point out this error, and we ask the board to reverse on it.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Could I ask staff a question related
Certainly.
to this?
Yes.
Okay, in that same vein, where the staff report says that they do not, as a matter of general practice, verify required compliance with state or federal licensure requirements, if the staff or the zoning administrator could explain just the background to that, how long that's been the case, what support is there for that stance, just to answer, what the speaker's been saying.
I asked the previous zoning administrator, and Drew here can speak as to his experience, but we've never done that level of verification. We don't verify if a barber shop has a cosmetology license. We don't verify if the liquor stores have their ABC licenses either. And as far as I know, other localities don't do that as part of the zoning process either.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Yeah, but I mean, isn't it conceivable that a person could enter into a lease to do something and seek an occupancy permit to do that in that business and not ever open the door and not conduct business and never sell anything? Isn't the act of selling what it requires the firearms, the federal license, not the act of wanting to sell, but the act of selling requires the license? Isn't that true?
That's like the horse and the cart. So, in fact, you're asking if we're putting the horse before the cart. And actually, the certificate of occupancy says, and it makes the determination when it is issued, you are in compliance with the law. And in the application, but let me make this clear too, in the application, it's not simply for occupying this space. It asks what's the use.
Right.
And throughout the ordinance, it's not simply the space. Yes, it's the proposed use. And before that certificate of occupancy is issued, then all your ducks must be in a row. Your horse must be before your cart, before you are allowed to open your doors for business. Because once you have that certificate of occupancy, you can open for business.
Question, I'll follow up. Do I have to purchase inventory?
If you want to sell something, I suspect you do.
Before I'm granted a CO, do I have to purchase inventory?
Not that I know of, no. I don't know that that's a legal requirement. I know that possessing a federal firearms license before you open your doors as a gun shop, that's required.
That's all, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Owen?
I have some questions about the hazardous material claim. So, in the materials we got, it says that it shows that the question was answered no. Does the business involve the storage, manufacture, or processing of hazardous materials? And then it gives some examples. And you've mentioned that in your appeal as one of the grounds. As one of the grounds of your appeal. Are you asserting that there are hazardous materials involved in the use?
The appeal says this, that there could be. And in fact, a recent Twitter advertisement from the shop suggests that they are now stocking something called tannerite, which in its shelf form is a powder that's not mixed together and is not hazardous. But when mixed together, it is a hazardous material. It's an explosive. But what I would like to use this opportunity to talk about in the hazardous material claim is the zoning administrator's response.
I'm sorry, before we get to that, I actually had that question myself, but I just want to clarify. Could you just, are you able to just provide us now with exactly what you think, based on the information you have, is a hazardous material that's involved in this business? Is it just that one chemical, or are there others?
As I understand right now, yes. Right now, as I understand it, but it might behoove us to inspect.
Okay. So then my question to staff is, it's my understanding that even in the report, it appears to me that your argument is, even if you were to concede that that question was knowingly improperly answered, that it still would not be a basis for the zoning administrator denying the permit, that this is an extraneous question for the purposes of the zoning administrator's approval. Am I correctly understanding your assertion?
Yes, the certificate of occupancy is a single application that serves a lot of purposes. And so there are some questions that pertain to the building code and some that pertain to zoning. And so that particular question, I did consult with my colleagues in inspection services. That is a requirement that relates to the Uniform Statewide Building Code and the Fire Prevention Code. So if there was an allegation or a concern about the presence of hazardous materials, that code covers, regulates, identifies what hazardous materials are, and then there's a threshold, which is very complicated, and depending on what those materials are, it gets for lack of a better word, a different rating, and so then the inspection and approvals for that building rating might differ than how it's currently classified.
It would not affect the C of O.
For the zoning review, no. It might affect, there's two parts that they would have to meet both the zoning and the building codes. And so for the ISD review, inspection, assessment, if that distinction was made, they might ask different questions. They might be looking for different things in terms of how materials are stored and that sort of thing.
But you're saying the C of O could be denied solely for a code compliance issue, not a zoning compliance issue. Is that right?
Yes.
And if it were denied solely for a code compliance issue, that's not something that we have the power to review.
There's a different body that could appeal that decision.
So now that we've laid out that argument, if the applicant has a response, go ahead.
Thank you. And that goes directly to the point that the appeal is trying to make, that the zoning administrator in her supervisory capacity is required to assess and ensure, and it says right on the certificate of occupancy that the certificate of occupancy ensures that the purpose for which the premises are used is in compliance with the law. And right on this point is the showing and the telling that that is true. You must assess whether or not it's in compliance with the law. For example, on the hazmat question in the zoning administrator's response to the appeal, she says, and I quote, she says that the hazmat question is, quote, required for assessing compliance with the Uniform Statewide Building Code and the Arlington Fire Prevention Code. You can't cherry pick what laws you have to verify compliance with. The code says, the certificate of occupancy says, the use of the premises must be in compliance with the law. The relevant law here is the federal firearms law. In another matter, it might be the Uniform State Building Code. You can't cherry pick. You have to make it compliant with the law.
I have a question. So, but I notice on the certificate of occupancy, it's signed by Mr. Amiri, hopefully I'm pronouncing it right, a building official. And in the statements that this building or proposed use of the building or land complies with all provisions of the Virginia Uniform State Building Code and the Arlington County Zoning Ordinance. So, but isn't it enough that the building official signed off in reference to hazardous materials?
Well, you'll notice also on the certificate of occupancy that the final signature, the final issuance, is from the zoning administrator. So these specific or specialized inspections and approvals are ultimately brought together under the authority of the zoning administrator to make the final approval and to make the final determination that it is proper to issue this certificate of occupancy, and the appeal argues that it was not.
Okay, thank you.
Are we good? Okay. Stand by. Speakers. Ann Duffy, to be followed by Joshua Mize. Ann Duffy.
Done?
Yep, for the
Thank you
moment.
so much. Good evening.
Don't leave.
Good evening.
Evening.
So, I am here this evening first and foremost as a concerned Lion Park citizen. I live approximately 5 blocks from the Nova Armory. Do have a question later, not to get into the weeds, but Bernadette mentioned the federal firearms law, and she said something with regard to not referencing or using the application of those federal firearms laws, so I'm confused why she references it as an argument for her debate on the certificate of occupancy. In any case, I support the certificate of occupancy of Mr. Pratt, and I urge you, the board, to let it stand. Leftists, and I use that term with all the seriousness that it implies, Julie, Emily, Bernadette, Grace, Nathan, if they're no longer interested in residing in Lion Park, which is also my neighborhood, I invite them to look elsewhere for a residence. I live, you see, I am a minority because I am a traditional, single female in Arlington who supports the Second Amendment, trains regularly, and owns a firearm. The most heinous part about Julie, Emily, Bernadette, Grace, and Nathan's crusade is that they are basing all of their arguments on emotion. And they'll do a great job to convince you otherwise. But just as they pretend to be interested in using logic when they base their appeal on the false advertising claim, or the use of fictitious trade names, or even an inaccurate record of ownership of the premises, those are in fact just cover claims. The big elephant in the room is that all of those items upon which they pretend to base their appeal are merely window dressing to thinly disguise their real disgust. They don't like guns, and they don't like Mr. Pratt for selling them. To wit, why are they not finding fault with other nearby Arlington business owners, of which I'm sure there are a few, who are in probable violation of these same points? That would be logical. But I'm actually not here to talk about their emotions.
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Could you sum up? Your time is up.
I can sum up. I will try. I'm here as a minority and as a concerned Lion Park citizen, concerned for the rule of law that is slipping away, and concerned for my minority rights with regard to our Constitution's Second Amendment. There's a fundamental lack of knowledge on the part of Julie, Emily, Bernadette, Grace, and Nathan about firearms. I'll be happy to go to the range with any of them for a lesson, if they'd like. The essential point is that...
Excuse me.
No, the essential point is that...
Please, excuse me.
Yes.
Please wrap up. You have 2 minutes. You exceeded your time, and
well
you're
aware.
taking time away from everyone else in the room.
I was just going to ask if someone would be willing to cede time. Thank you.
No, excuse me.
You're done.
If you don't wish to speak, you don't need to speak, but we need to follow some decorum, some rules of order, or we will be here all night.
Am I not orderly?
And that's not necessary. Someone else can perhaps make the points that you wish to make.
Okay. So, as a Lion Park citizen, I am in the minority, and I am asking that you grant Mr. Pratt his certificate of occupancy and that you let it stand. This is about my freedom and the freedom of Nova Armory, and Mr. Pratt is a small business owner, to be allowed
It's expired. Please sit down.
to be
Thank you.
allowed to do as we please.
Joshua Mize.
Just as we allow Bernadette to live where she pleases.
Joshua Mize. Okay, not here. We also have a speaker slip from Frederick Baird, who said he had to leave, but I'm so noting that he had applied to speak. Next speaker, Matthew. Thank you. I appreciate your help. Followed by Katie Johnson.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I wanted to speak in support of the zoning administration. There's going to be a lot of kind of passionate talk tonight, and I wanted to kind of step back from that because I think one thing that might be missed in all that, and I saw in some of your comments that perhaps you see it as well, is that the kind of standard that the appellants are asking to be set in the terms of their appeal is one that's really unworkable. To ask the zoning administrators to examine every single certificate of occupancy appeal to determine if there is a barbershop license or if every payroll tax permit that has been acquired, that is necessary, has been acquired, or that every single licensing and permitting the requirement. You're turning the zoning board into a de facto monitoring body for every single law that affects American business, which would basically mean that we would get no zoning done ever. Likewise with the hazardous materials. Similarly, within their appeal, if every retailer that advertised something at prices for sold at wholesale prices, if they had thereby become a wholesaler and undone their own COO, we're going to revoke a lot of these. Even the issue of the ownership with the daughter. I mean, given the commonness of interfamilial relationships, father-son establishments, mother-daughter establishments, husband-wife-owned shops. If every time, dad signs the COO and then later in a flippant comment to somebody says, yeah, well, mom really runs the business. If that creates grounds to say, well, that's a materially false statement, you're not the real owner of the business because you made that statement, we're going to be revoking these things left and right. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Katie Johnson, to be followed by Cecilia Cervantes.
Right. Good evening. My name is Katie Johnson, and I'm a member of the Arlington community. I have been for the past 2 years, and I am speaking in favor of Nova Armory and respectfully urge you to reject this appeal. When I first moved to Arlington, I was surprised to learn that there was no place for Arlington residents to exercise their Second Amendment rights. Since the opening of Nova Armory, in addition to the increased economic activity this business has brought to the area, Arlington residents now have the opportunity to engage with gun owners and the opportunity to become educated about proper gun safety, self-defense, and our Second Amendment rights. I am dismayed that a handful of concerned citizens are attempting to bully and intimidate a family-owned and operated local business and shut down Nova Armory, which has gone through all of the proper legal channels to open their business. I strongly and respectfully urge you to respect Nova Armory's right to exist, and I hope you will respect our community enough to reject this appeal. Thank you.
Thank you. Cecilia Cervantes, to be followed by Jason Matthew Hancock.
Good evening. My name is Cecilia Cervantes, and I am a resident of Roslyn. As a woman, as a minority, and as a millennial, I recognize the value of safety. Safety is a fundamental to human dignity and to the flourishment of a particular community. That is why I support this business. No other business in the Arlington County provides the means to learn about proper, safe gun use. Accepting this appeal would remove the opportunity for women like myself to learn how to exercise their Second Amendment rights and how to properly and knowingly defend themselves. That is why I urge you to vote down this appeal and let Nova Armory and women Nova Armory to keep their business permit and women the ability to defend themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason Hancock, to be followed by Gary Cobb. Jason Hancock, going once. Gary Cobb, to be followed by Mike Webb. Sorry.
Thank you. My name is Gary Cobb. I'm an Arlington resident. I'm also the owner of a small business registered in Arlington. And I want to speak just for a few minutes about Mr. Pratt and my experience with him. I have a business relationship where he takes the products that I manufacture, puts them on his shelves as retail. and he really gave me my first break in my business. So I'd like to share with you how that experience started and how it has transpired to address one of the points that Ms. Brennan offered, which was, if I can read my note here, the owner and operator in fact. So when I first called the store and I asked for the owner of Nova Armory, the person that answered the phone put Mr. Pratt on the phone. I gave him my pitch, told him I wanted to bring by my product for him to look at. And of the 5 transactions that we've had over the last month or so, it has always been Mr. Pratt that I've dealt with. I didn't come here tonight with prepared remarks, but as I sat back and I watched all the support for Nova Armory build in the room, I felt compelled to come up and share my story. He had no idea what I was going to talk about, and he's probably a little nervous. Increased economic opportunities. That was also mentioned. He is looking local for his suppliers, and that should mean something to this community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mike Webb,
Yes, ma'am.
to be followed by Carrie Pickett.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak. Wow, I like to say I'm not a lawyer, but I play one on TV sometimes. But as I recall from looking at the law and also working in banking, a child cannot hold real property, cannot open a bank account. These things are held custodially, fiduciary relationship in trust. And so basically the adult actually does take on the responsibility for caring for that property until the child reaches majority age and can exercise for themselves. But also, just want to make a public policy argument. We live in a very, very different time now, where, goodness gracious, 1 year ago, we had Dylan Roof walk into a church down in South Carolina just a month ago. We had James Brown III woke up that day and he was not feeling good. But the difference between those two situations was that in Richmond, we happen to have 5 officers that just serendipitously happened to be in that station to actually alter that equation so we were able to save lives. But we cannot rely on serendipity. We cannot put a policeman in every room. We cannot put a metal detector on every closet. And so we basically have to have another opportunity. And I think that the Second Amendment actually, if we look at the Constitution as a living document that applies to the situation that we have today, we have an opportunity to recognize self-defense as an option, and also to give our citizens an opportunity to basically have a chance to have liberty, give them the opportunity over death. And so I think that personally, that is a bargain that has a lifetime guarantee. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Carrie Pickett, to be followed by Daniel Bose.
Yes, I'm Carrie Pickett. I'm a local resident of Arlington. One of the questions that I have here particularly has to do with the hazardous material concern, because I'm curious as to what exactly can that extend to. Because look, obviously there are a lot of gun owners, as we see over here, of the area. Could this possibly be a slippery slope over to those of us who lease in apartments, who have firearms, who have ammo, and could this possibly go into, say, our landlords or perhaps into our own properties and say, wait, hold on a second. You have ammo, you have firearms, that's hazardous material. Sorry, you have to tell your landlord in your application that you're going to be having that in your apartment. Sorry, sucks to be you. So is that where we are going right now? That is a huge concern of mine, and it could very well start with Mr. Pratt's situation here. Can we please think about that for a moment? And let's also think about for a moment here as to what other gun stores have been attacked in the Arlington area, Fairfax as well. This isn't a huge coincidence here that certain technicalities have been looked at just to shut these stores down. I don't think that's a big coincidence. I don't think any of you should either. Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel Bose.
I believe that's,
You?
I think that's me. It's Hawes. I didn't write very well. Hawes.
No.
No? Somebody else?
Oh, there's a guy standing behind you. Are you the aforementioned?
Daniel Bose, also known as Wheel Gun Dan.
I see that.
I would
Just one moment. I just wanted to say that the next speaker is Mark Shin. Go ahead, please.
I would like to thank the board for your continued service to all of the members of the community in Arlington, Virginia, not just a handful of residents with wild imaginations. I would also like to thank you for allowing an American man to continue to operate a business in a free country that we presume is free, allow him to continue to run his business, because after all, if the people of the community do not support the business will go away by itself. And so this great experiment of freedom that we have in this country allows us to start a business and run a business and at least try to succeed. I feel it also worth mentioning that my lovely wife tells everybody in the neighborhood that the family dog is actually the owner of our house. I don't genuinely believe anyone actually believes that, nor do I believe that a 16-year-old girl is actually the owner and operator of a firearms business. So thank you.
Thank you. Mark Shin, thank you.
Yes,
To be
good
followed
evening.
by Michael Agresti.
Yes, good evening. My name is Mark Shin. I am from Roslyn, Virginia, so I've been in this area for a long, long time. I'll just try to make this as short as possible. I'm not afraid of growing older. I'm not afraid of growing weaker. I'm not afraid of growing slower, like Miss Brennan. I'm afraid of becoming a hated and hunted minority. That's what I'm afraid of without being able to defend my life. I cannot defend my life in Maryland and Washington, D.C., but I can do it on this side of the Potomac River. I'm begging you to let this store stand. Thank you.
Michael Agresti. Michael Agresti. John Higgy. There you go.
Good evening again. My name is John Highguy of Arlington, Virginia. First, thank you for your public service tonight. It's greatly appreciated. I respectfully request the board to adopt the suggested resolution to affirm and uphold the issuance of the certificate of occupancy. Staff is to be complimented on their report. If the business did not have a federal firearms license, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, also known as ATF, is fully empowered to shut them down and arrest the owner. Obviously, this has not happened yet. For those who want to write this down, call 1-800-ATF-GUNS. Repeat, 1-800-ATF-GUNS. That's 1-800-283-4867 if you believe someone is violating firearms law. As a taxpayer, I'm concerned about if there is a litigation, perhaps the gun store owner would win a settlement. There's also just all the legal fees associated. And also, Arlington does not need another vacant storefront. There are already too many vacant properties, business properties in this county, and the market should decide. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew Laposer, to be followed by Tim Himes.
A lot of my points have already been made tonight, so I'll keep this short.
Thank you.
You know, I'm kind of disgusted with Julie, Emily, Bernadette, Grace, and Nathan. I also am a resident of Arlington County. I'm chairman of the Arlington Falls Church Young Republicans, and we do good work in the community, and we've supported Dennis ever since he came and wanted to start his shop in Arlington. This is nothing more than an attempt by a group of individuals, an underhanded method to disrupt his store and his small business. We saw this from the members in the House of Delegates and our state senators, and this is another attempt to shut down his small business. I'm asking that this case be dismissed for the following reasons, this appeal. Virginia Code 15.2-2312 says that you must give due notice to the parties in interest. Neither Nova Armory nor his landlord were given notice of this meeting. But also, who has standing in this case? Who is the person aggrieved? Is a person aggrieved anyone that's randomly offended by a certificate of occupancy that's given by the board? This interpretation is supported by the fact that the final zoning decision, was given to Dennis. If he was aggrieved, he would have appealed this. Bernadette does not have any standing to appeal the zoning occupancy by the way I read the law. If anyone has a right to appeal random zoning ordinances, I would have been advocating for the Wendy's to be demolished a long time ago here in Courthouse. So I will end on that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Tim Himes? Tim Himes?
Yes. Good evening. I'd also like to speak about standing. The docket was read different than how the appeal is written. The appeal is written that Grace Chan is listed, and she has no address listed. So is Grace Chan even a person who is a resident of Arlington County? Does she have standing to make this appeal? I do not believe so.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman.
Mr. Owen.
I believe we were informed prior to the meeting that Grace Chan removed herself as an appellant. Sorry, excuse me. I have a question for the board members and for the staff about who's the appellant.
Okay.
So is Grace Chan still an appellant, or has she withdrawn?
She's withdrawn.
Okay. So I just thought in response to that speaker's question
Which is why her name doesn't appear on the slide. William Barrett, to be followed by Mike McGowan.
Good evening. My name is William Barrett. I'm an Arlington homeowner and a resident, and I'm also a customer of Nova Armory. I visited the store twice, so I can offer some, I guess you could say, testimony in regard to some of the claims in the appeal, all of which I believe to be false. In regard to the claim that Mr. Pratt is not the true owner, I can state that he was there when I visited the store, not his daughter. I didn't see her on either of my two visits to the store. And from everything I could see, he was the one in charge, and there was certainly no reference to his daughter being consulted for anything. Regarding the claim that Nova Armory is operating a wholesale business, that is patently false. It would be pretty hard to operate a wholesale business from a small shop like that, and you would be, I don't think you'll see anyone carrying big crates or barrels of guns out of the store having just purchased them from a wholesale business. It's very obviously a retail gun shop that looks very much like other retail gun shops that I've been in. And I would also add that to the extent that you might happen to believe at the end of all this that there was some problem with the issuance of the certificate of occupancy, that whatever problem that might be is something minor that can be addressed without kicking the business out or forcing them to stop operating while that problem is being addressed. Anything legitimate that you might believe needs to be addressed is something that can be taken care of. And I also agree with some of the other speakers that the whole purpose of this appeal was not because these residents had genuine concerns about zoning violations, but in fact this is because they don't like guns and they're, for various reasons, uncomfortable with a gun store in their neighborhood. And it's not a matter for the zoning administrator or the Board of Zoning Appeals to worry about. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike McGowan, to be followed by David Manis.
Good evening. My name is Mike McGowan. I'm an Arlington resident. I'm here in support of Nova Firearms. I am not here to give you an impassioned defense of the Second Amendment. I'm sure you'll hear plenty tonight, but because this board is not empowered to decide issues of the Second Amendment. Rather, this is a zoning board, and that is the great shame of this appeal. There are no credible, legitimate zoning issues contained in this appeal. Rather, the people who filed this appeal would try to use this zoning board in order to attack and persecute a small business that they just don't like. So I would implore this board, do not allow yourselves to be used as a weapon. Rather, decide this on zoning.
Thank you. David, to be followed by Eric Peterson.
I'd like to thank the board for taking the time to listen to me. I'm David Maness. I've lived in Arlington Heights for about 7.5 years now. Married father of 3, and I'm very concerned about our community, our safety, and what we show the rest of the country by the decision that you're going to make tonight. I visited the store in question several times. I've seen both the father and the daughter there. I'm concerned about the safety of our neighborhood, and I think that a store like Nova Armory is one of the best things we could have to keep Arlington safe. You walk in there, and the first thing you see is a place for customers to register their names and social security numbers and their address and all kinds of information. So there's no kind of underhanded dealing going on there. Just imagine the decision you make tonight, you can probably argue it either way based on the paperwork and getting the right names and the right documents. But if you vote to shut this place down, all of this business is going to go somewhere else, and Arlington is going to receive the wrong kind of attention, and probably nationwide. And as a member of this community, that's not the way I want to, that's not the reflection I want on our neighborhood. I live within walking distance there. I feel safer with it, and I want to thank you for your time.
Eric Peterson. God bless you. David Avery? Sorry. Please correct me. To be followed by Philip Van Cleve, by the way.
Madam Chairman and members of the board,
And
thank you for your vigilance and the safety and the well-being of this community. It's important to remember what this is really about, standing for the values of our community, opportunity for a small business to succeed and fail on its own merit, not exhausting attempts to use the courts to overrule the voice of the people of this community. This value of the entrepreneurial spirit has attracted some of the best local businesses across the nation here and will continue to strengthen us if we stay true to it. As a caring resident and voter, I encourage you to not let targeting that creates additional hardships on our local businesses continue, but to stand for our community values, care for our local businesses, and opportunity for growth. Thank you for your time.
Philip Van Cleve, to be followed by Jared Handler.
Hi, Philip Van Cleve. I'm the president of the Virginia Citizens Defense League, so I'm representing an organization. We're a large gun rights organization in Virginia, and we've been following this whole issue, and this is just another chapter in it. First of all, we'll be real clear. We oppose the appeal and support the occupancy permit for the gun store. This whole thing from the beginning has been rather amazing. I almost have to apologize to you guys. You're being dragged into the middle of something, as was mentioned earlier, to be a weapon. This was nothing more than pure harassment of that store. And this is not like this just showed up. From the minute that store was announced, there were people lining up trying to do everything imaginable. They had, protests, all fine and dandy, but there have been a lot of people that have not liked the store. They don't like guns. And they were even saying things like, well, this store is going to bring in all kinds of people from Washington, D.C. There'd be drug deals and the wildest fantasy stuff you could imagine. But some people believe this. But they have been after this business, and this is just one more piece of that puzzle. And I say I have to apologize to you because everything on the side of going after this business is all specious. It's all there just to make this business, to destroy it if they could. And I was going to mention the thing about the notice. I think that's been covered. I was a little disappointed that the store didn't know about it. Because they learned about it just yesterday, we learned about it and let our members know. I don't know how that happens. I kind of picture a jockey at a race and going up to the gate and forgetting the horse. I mean, how could you do that? But, oh well. Anyhow, and to summarize, let me just ask the people in the room that agree with VCDL's position on this to please raise their hands. Okay. Thank you. I'll give you my extra minute back.
Thank you. Jared Hendler.
Good evening, and thank you for the time. I live on Barton Street between 9th and 10th, which is one block from the store. And every evening, I take my daughter, who's 21 months old, and my dog for a walk. And we often will go to Astor for dinner if my wife is working late. And while we're waiting for our food to be cooked, we'll go into Nova Armory, which has turned out to be an expensive proposition. So in those 3 transactions and $5,000 spent that would have been spent in Fairfax County in the absence of this store, never once have I transacted anything with the 16-year-old daughter. It's always been with Dennis Pratt. So I don't know if we're really dealing with what I consider to be silly claims that you're dealing with, but they're silly. The 16-year-old's not running it, he is. If there were a problem with the FFL, the federal government, the FBI, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, they would deal with this, and he would go to prison on a federal felony charge. So it's silly. But let's deal with what I think they're really dealing with is our community, Lion Park. They don't feel like a gun store should be there. A priori, before it opened, we didn't know what would actually happen. It's now been open for, I don't know, a month or two, and there is no injurious effect. I drive by it every night on purpose. I could come up 10th Street, but I literally sit in the traffic to go on Pershing so I can see what's going on at the gun store. And generally, there's 1 or 2 people in there filling out state background check, filling out federal background check, and spending money. And I don't know if you have a deal with the state so that sales tax credits go to Arlington, but the money's staying in the county. These aren't bad people. These are law-abiding citizens like you see in front of you today. The bad guys don't fill out background checks. The bad guys don't go to Nova Armory. They go to certain streets in D.C. or other places in Maryland. They pay $100 and they get a gun. So I hope you will do the right thing and allow the store to remain open. Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel Hawes, to be followed by Dennis Pratt.
I'm the attorney for Nova Armory, and I think I have 2 minutes. I would request more time to be able to respond to the opposition.
Sir, as a speaker, you're allowed 2 minutes.
Well, let me take a little bit of that time.
Thank you. Oh. Give this to Drew.
Oh, that's okay. No, it's okay. It's okay. Thanks.
Madam Chairman, isn't our practice for organizations to get 3 minutes?
3 minutes.
Thank you. I've handed you all up a memorandum in opposition to the petition for appeal. And basically, a couple of people have already hit on one special issue, which has to do with standing. That has to do with the definition of an aggrieved party. 15.1 or 15.2-2311 requires the application of a two-pronged test. I'm getting this information from Friends of the Rappahannock versus Caroline County, 286 Virginia 38. decided in 2013. And the two-prong test requires that the appellants own or occupy real property within or in close proximity to the property that is the subject of the land use determination, thus establishing that he or she has a direct, immediate, pecuniary, and substantial interest in the decision, and that there be a particularized harm to some personal or property right which doesn't apply to the public generally. None of these people who have signed this thing have any interest whatsoever in this property, and none of them they haven't even alleged that they have any kind of particularized interest. As many of these people have said, they just don't like the gun store. This matter's already involved in litigation in the City of Richmond Circuit Court. Ms. Brennan is one of the defendants. I suggest that this petition was filed in retaliation and is further harassment against this business. With respect to the daughter, from the start, these people have been attacking her. She's gotten postcards in the mail that she took as death threats, a 16-year-old girl, because somebody published her home address in connection with this stuff. I don't know why they feel that she should be the target of these special attacks, but that's what they're doing. She is a bright and precocious young lady. She's learning to do retail business. It's our position, girls can learn to do that. A girl can learn to be the manager of a business. There's nothing wrong with that. Another thing that these people have said is that this store will become a magnet for those people to travel via the metro into Lyon Park from the other side of the Anacostia River in order to acquire firearms illegally and set up illegal black market gun and drug running operations. Now, these kind of outrageous statements have been used right and left to attack this business. This petition is just another round of that attack. Absolutely every fact, I can state this categorically and from personal knowledge, I'm the registered agent of this business, and there's no question that the application was filed correctly and that the allegations of fact in the petition for appeal are false. We talked about fraud earlier. That was fraud on a tribunal. If a lawyer did that, he'd be looking at disbarment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Dennis Pratt. I'm the owner of Nova Armory. Thank you for letting me speak. I guess I'm done. I don't have anything to add. I just want to thank everybody for coming out and supporting our business. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Board members, do you have any
Madam Chair,
questions?
I have one question, very quickly for Mr. Hawes. And it is, isn't this just the kind of forum where a person who may disagree with the with a gun store in Arlington to exercise their disagreement, and wouldn't they be insulated in doing so from any claim of tortious interference?
Negative. The reason is that if it was done with actual malice, which we have alleged in the civil suit that I told you about, then there is no privilege. There wouldn't be privilege from tortious interference at all. There would be a qualified privilege with respect to a defamation claim, but that goes away with actual malice.
Okay.
Can I answer any other questions?
Any other questions? No?
I have a question for staff.
Okay. Questions of staff?
In regard to the notice to Nova Armory, what was the county's responsibility in terms of notifying them that this action was taking place?
The only required public notice under the Code of Virginia is to publish the advertisement in 2 successive weeks no less than 5 days apart and no less than 5 days before the actual hearing date. The notices went out. There were also notices sent to the appellants. There were notices sent to the property owner of the subject property. I had also attempted to contact Mr. Pratt myself by phone, but I was informed that his phone number was not in use anymore at the point that he was receiving just tons of calls from people in the neighborhood who were opposed to his business, and that's the reason I was never able to get in touch with him. So legally, we did our part to send out notices. The notices were dated 4/28/2016.
Madam Chairman, on that
Mr.
point.
We don't fault the county at all for what they did, but I feel like the appellants should have provided notice, and they did not. We didn't hear about this till yesterday.
Thank you. Mr. Owen.
I would just say that in light of this question and the one we had at the last hearing, that maybe it might be helpful for us at some point when we have time this year to promulgate BZA procedures for who should be notified, not as a matter of law or right, but just as a matter of practice and openness. So I'll just note that.
Thank you. Other comments? Mr. DeMelnick.
So my question is for Ms. Brennan. I noticed in the statement of justification that at least 3 times it states that the permit must be revoked with prejudice against refiling. And I was looking at that, and you've mentioned certain allegations, and what I don't understand is why you would say prejudice against refiling. So does that mean that in any event, you don't want a certificate of occupancy to be issued? Even if everything you're saying is true and then it's correct and it's refiled, you wouldn't want it refiled?
The appeal is based on the number of technical issues as well as misstatements of fact. And because there were so many, it felt so egregious that the appeal requests not only a revocation, but a revocation with prejudice against refiling.
Any other questions of staff?
One quick question, not of staff, but to follow up with Ms. On Mr. Melnick's question. Do you have any case law that supports the with prejudice demand?
Not with me, but I can prepare it for you and give it to you at another time.
Other comments, questions?
I don't have any questions, but I'll probably want to say something before we take our vote, so whenever that comes around.
I'm sorry?
But before we take any votes, I would want to make a quick statement, but I don't have any questions.
Okay. Anybody else? Proceed, Mr. Owen.
I'm not proposing anything. I just want to reserve my slot before you call the vote.
I'm giving you the slot.
There's no motion done.
Oh, okay. Why don't you make a motion?
I'm not inclined to.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Smith.
I move that we vote to uphold the determination of the zoning administrator that the CO was issued properly.
Thank you.
Second.
There's some language in the staff report that's specific, but in essence, that's my motion.
Yeah, I'll second.
So
Moved and seconded. Discussion.
thank you. So I'm going to support the motion, but I just wanted to make the observation that by the standards that I've seen in my short tenure here for appeals of actions by the zoning administrator, I did not find all of the claims made in this appeal to be frivolous. I thought that even though I don't find them meritorious after having examined them, I don't think that they were specious or frivolous, in my opinion. And I just wanted to put that in the record that although I agree with the zoning administrator and agree that this permit was correctly issued, I think I just wanted to make on the record that I did not think that all of the issues mentioned in the appeal were frivolous.
Any other
Madam Chair?
comments?
I'd like to speak to, I too will support the motion, but as some of the people in the audience tried to distinguish, for us, this is not about a Second Amendment right. This is very narrow. So our personal feelings about how we feel about this gun store, any gun store, guns in general, completely are not relevant to our decision here. It is a technical decision based on a zoning question that was defined by the applicant, answered by staff, and discussed among us. So I have sympathy. That's not the right word. I appreciate where the applicant is coming from in terms of appellant is coming from in terms of these questions, because I think they are legitimate questions from the standpoint of requiring an answer. And I'm fairly new on this board, and so it's informative to me as well to hear this being discussed. But this is our process. Our process is to ask questions and get answers and try to arrive at something. So I appreciate those questions, and I hope to learn more about some of these questions that have been raised about notice and things like that.
Madam Chair, if I can
Mr.
make a quick
Melnick.
comment. So I wanted to express my appreciation, to everybody who's come out tonight. It's, everybody's, on both sides, really, the passion you've expressed, the interest you've expressed. This is all, what it's about, us hearing evidence and viewpoints to make a decision. So I do appreciate everyone's interest. Just wanted to...
Thank you for that.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Smith.
I made the motion, but I personally believe that, like liquor, guns should be sold through state stores. But I made the motion to uphold the zoning administrator, because I think that appellants have the right, people have the right to, and they may not have standing. There's a very good question. That case from 2013 does, it's a good one to look at. But I think that, like Mr. Owen, I don't think that it was specious or done with malice, her appeal of the ZO. But I just think that we live in a community that has a lot of different viewpoints, and amazingly, it's been able to contain them all within this room without any kind of disturbance or turmoil or names being called and all of that. And that's the kind of the wonderful thing that we have in a participatory democracy. So I made the motion to uphold the right of the store to have their store, but I personally might write the law differently.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah?
Problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think...
Please let Miss Brennan out safely, or whatever her name is.
Yeah. I've done it to myself, too. All the way back up to 10 or back down the...
Still in session, and we still have business, so if you could take your business outside, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Yes.
We do have minutes from the April 13th meeting, and I had one correction. The pages aren't numbered. But I guess it's 1, 2, 3, 4, page 5, where it says the deferral to April 13th. I think it's 5. There's no page numbers. It's a carryover by Elaine. And it says April 13th, but it was the minutes of April 13th, so it would have been today, which of course...
Should have been June, yes.
Didn't do anyway, but anyway.
What is the case number? Is it the Capusta
It's
one?
888-14 UP5.
Yes, the Capusta one.
Lane.
Okay, great. Thank you.
That was my, and I know that Mr. Owen sent comments, so. No, it's the date itself.
Oh, no, Mr. Owens' motion. I have a question on the first item about who made the motion.
That was one of mine. Considering he objected to it. Ms. Mellis, were you the one who made that motion?
I believe I made that motion.
Yes, okay. So that should be corrected. That was one of my 3 comments.
The first motion you said?
First motion.
Ballston Park?
This
Okay.
was 111-2116, yeah.
Okay. I've actually got a corrected copy right here with me.
Okay.
So I've made the corrections that Mr. Owen brought forward to me. I think I need to add Judy's, though, as well, still.
Date. That was all I have.
The second issue that I had raised, I guess, that Drew has addressed, I hope, is I wanted to get in the record that the zoning administrator had consented to the deferral in the C2 property, the one on Route 7, that they had consented to the deferral. So and the third one was that in the approval of last month's minutes, I abstained, not on the grounds that I wasn't present, because I actually was present for part of the hearing, but on the grounds
You
that
weren't sitting in the chair.
I was not on the board at the time.
Okay.
Last hearing.
You were appointed at the
Picky,
time.
picky.
You had been appointed and sworn in, but you were just not sitting.
Yeah, right. Okay. Can we have a motion to approve as amended?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show it's 11:45.
All right.
Thank you all
Move to adjourn.
for moving speedily. Thank you for all the deferrals. Yes.